Day 43. I stare at the sun while I'm on another planet. Sorry, just waiting for people to come through. My voice seems to be a bit croaky. 1 second. Hi to everyone. I'm probably going to put this one on Spotify or TikTok or whatever. On YouTube, sorry. So I thought I'd talk before people start joining. I thought I'd waffle on about a couple of things. So one is interesting. I just literally flicked past Gaia. I don't actually follow Gaia, which talks about all the same sort of stuff I do. I think it's a subscription channel in the States, but I think you can probably get it other places. And I've actually got more followers than them, which I thought was really nice. But also, I've come across two particular women that do, I'm not going to name names, but that do videos talking about all sorts of stuff similar to what I talk about. And every single time I watch one of their videos, they've got errors in their videos. And I've pointed it out to them. I don't know whether they delete my comments or even take it to heart, but I just, they haven't researched. Basically, you can just tell they haven't researched by the way they even talk. They cut the videos as well. So it's like 15 seconds and they cut, and then they obviously have to go away and research a bit more and come back and carry on. And it's really sad because they've got a lot of followers. In fact, one of them's got 1 million followers. And of course, those people are listening to this person talking, and they really don't have the facts. But what can I do? There's nothing I can do. And I've got some interesting news to tell you guys as well, which I'll get to shortly, because there's some questions here. Avatar has joined and wrote, "Hi, love." Ah, bless you, Avatar. And then Avatar's wrote, "Interesting energies." Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. David Shane has wrote, "Did you find Bigfoot?" I haven't looked specifically for Bigfoot. I mean, obviously I've been looking into Bigfoot. There's possibly some different information on the Dyatlov Pass incident, which I haven't looked at yet, so I want to study that. But, I mean, I think Bigfoot's real for sure. There's too many inconsistencies with, or consistencies, really, to be fair, with people that've seen Bigfoot. And, I won't waffle on. Lisa's wrote, Chewbacca talks about Anunnaki. Anunnaki. Probably does. Hamdrew has wrote, "I saw Bigfoot this morning." Well, it was, I'm going to be rude here. This is what Hamdrew's wrote. And please block me because I'm a bit of an idiot for writing something really rude. No problem at all. Oh, hang on. This person also said, Hamdrew also wrote, sorry, I was just reading it. Keep scrolling down as I'm trying to read it. Hamdrew wrote, "Actually, to be fair, I've watched a few of your videos. You are awesome. Sorry for being really rude, but still block me because I shouldn't be rude on your channel." No problem at all. I will block you just because you've asked, but thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I don't like people being rude on people's channels. Avatar, have you watched I Am Team ENKI's videos about Anunnaki? No, I've not. I Am Team ENKI's. No. I'm guessing that's on YouTube or on here. I've not. That's interesting. Are they... Let me know what they talk about. I'd be interested to know. Sorry, someone's just asked the live. The problem is where I'm doing the live, I like to either do my own where I answer people's questions, or I do one solely with live people, so then all the people that's asking questions won't feel bad. I know I can't help it, I'm too nice. But no, I've not heard of I Am Team ENKI. The Rushton Wombles wrote, "If any of the above was true, why has nothing been proved in the last 100 years?" So, what you need to understand is who's running the world. Now, I don't know whether you took your like a good person. You took your 3, 4, and they're coming back round again. Trust me, you're not going to get away with it. Those kind of people that want to keep us in the dark. Now, obviously, you've probably not done any research, because if you had, you would have worked out that there's people that want to keep us in the dark about certain things. Now, obviously, aliens, the last thing they want to do is let us know there's aliens out there, because that means we will have free energy, anti-gravity, blah, 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 and all the oil people, the pharmaceutical people, the banking, everyone, all the elites, the technically 13, 14 families, there's a few more, but you get the point. They won't be in power if we didn't need them. So when you break that down and you realise, okay, so mainstream is what's causing the problem, because mainstream is run by those same people, then that's why you don't have, when you say proved, technically, what is proof? Now, if you go to a court of law and took all the people that's seen Bigfoot, then you're guilty. Yeah, they've seen Bigfoot. You can't. If you took all the people that's been abducted by aliens to court, then the amount of evidence that would be supplied, including marks on their bodies, the missing time, the implants, etc., then again, that in a court of law would, in my opinion, be evidence enough. So yeah, I think it's been proved, but people don't want to see it, really. The Rushtons wrote, there's nothing that's fact. Okay, so Rushton, hopefully you're still here. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you one question. So people with their dogs, up and down the whole of America, when they come across a Bigfoot, the dog barks, and sometimes the dogs run after the Bigfoot. And the Bigfoot grabs hold of the dog, twists his neck 360 degrees, kills the poor thing. So when the police go there and they find a distraught owner of a dog, up and down, not one, not two, hundreds and hundreds of times this has happened over years. Can you, the Rushton Womble, tell me whether you think all these owners of dogs are that strong to twist their dog's neck 360, and then call the police, or do you think there's a serial person going up and down the whole of America, breaking dogs' necks, dressed as a massive 8-foot Bigfoot? If you could just answer that question, just answer it. Just don't do anything else. Just don't stop writing. I know what you're typing in now. You're going to try and point me to somewhere different. You're going to go, but look at the flat earth. No. Answer that. Who breaks the dogs' necks? Now, bear in mind, there is police records of Bigfoots, but let's just go with that one. So if you could just answer who breaks the dog's necks, I would love to know your answer to that. Avatar has wrote to the Rushton Womble, they cover it up in order to keep humanity in the Vale of Illusion. You are obviously spot on, but unfortunately, those people that are not aware of that Avatar, such as the Rushton Womble, they're the ones that's going to get us all killed. Without sounding rude, they are. If they're not against what's coming because they're not aware of it, because they don't want to be aware of it, they'll just sort of gladly stick their head in the sand. Then when it comes time to, what's going to happen down the line, I mean, they're queuing it up now. We're going to have no money. It'll all be cashless. Cars will be electric, so they can literally stop you from doing anything you want. Our life is going to be crap. MC wrote Bigfoot, I barely know her. Avatar wrote TikTok. 6 per Peaky 6 White has wrote interesting. I'm not as interested as your name. 6 PK 6 White. Avatar has wrote, he makes them pretty good, similar to you, but different details. Oh, that's the person you was just talking about Team ENKI. That's cool. Okay, yeah. I will. Is he on YouTube? I guess I'd be interested to know. The Russians wrote, covered up for who and for what reason? So, well, hopefully you heard me talking about the anti-gravity craft, because obviously and also then they'll have to admit that the aliens have been abducting people, and then people will be saying, hang on a minute, I told you I was abducted, I've got radiation burns, which people do when they get sometimes abducted. Betty and Barney Hill being the first case of radiation exposure. So people will then be trying to claim for the government, saying, look, you've allowed these aliens to be picking us up, and they have allowed them because of the treaty with Eisenhower, but you're probably not aware of that. But so straight away that the government, the elites, are going to be on a back foot once we know. And if you look up, I don't know if you're going to bother, but if you look up the Smithsonian Institute, the court case that they had with the government at the time, bearing in mind this is 1902, the government took them to court and said, why are you destroying the giant skeletons? And they said, their answer was, we don't want to change the narrative that we've got now. In other words, and when you look out who actually owns or funds, let's be honest, owns the Smithsonian, you find out it's Rockefellers. And then when you find out that it's the Rockefellers and that they bought up all the museums, including the British one, they're hiding stuff. But if you don't want to see that, that's fine. The Fairy Kingdoms wrote, live people, not dead people. I'm guessing that's live people, not dead people. I'm not sure what I was talking about for that. 6PK has wrote, finally an interesting topic. Thank you very much. I've got 900 odd videos covering all of these subjects, even ones where I tell you where I believe Atlantis is. I know I did disable the comments on it, so I can't turn around and say hand on my heart that people's debunked it, but I don't think you're going to get anyone to be able to debunk it, because literally I've pointed to the evidence, so it's kind of true in my opinion. Nathan's wrote, have you ever seen aliens? I've sort of answered the story a couple of times before, but very briefly, and forgive me if you've heard this before a couple of times. In Tunisia, on business, 2010, something like that maybe. Second night in a hotel on my own. 12 o'clock, my mobile phone texts. I was there on film business. It was a line producer. And I read it and thought, you sod for waking me up at 12 o'clock. Then I put the phone down. And then I heard myself in my head, literally straight away, as soon as I put the phone down, saying, leave me alone, please leave me alone, please leave me alone. And I thought to myself, why am I saying that? That's really weird. And then I struggled to open my eyes, saw what I thought was something small standing beside the bed. Little grey, to be fair. It was dark because obviously the curtains were shut and whatnot. My arm was off the edge of the bed. That's because I'm quite tall and I like to sleep with my arms dangling, either side. Anyway, it looked like it walked towards the end of the bed. There was what I thought might have been a second one at the end of the bed. I was paralysed, couldn't move, trying to move my arm, couldn't do it. As soon as they walked around the corner, where the bathroom would have been, and then the front door of the hotel room, my arm sprang up. And as soon as it sprang up, I sat up. No, I didn't go around the corner because I figured, obviously, whatever is they're gone now. So I checked, the first thing I'd done was I checked the phone, and it was 2 minutes past 12. Only 2 minutes had gone. Technically, when I got that text, it could have been 12:59, 59 seconds. And when I picked the phone up to look, it could have been just literally turned 2 minutes past 12. So in other words, it could have been only 1 minute instead of two. So there's a possibility. So for me to go into an REM sleep within 2 minutes, 1 minute even, I think is a bit rare. But again, and later on, that literally there and then I typed a message to loads of people and sent it to loads of people. But it was a few years later that a person that I'd sent a message saying, I sent a message to everyone saying, can you look out and see if there's any news about a UFO over a particular hotel in where I was. A few years later, a friend of mine that did read that message that night found that there was reports, because obviously no one reported it straight away, but eventually there was reports, and yes, there was a UFO over the hotel that night. But whether or not, I don't know. I'm still on the fence on it, but it's strange. Robert has wrote, Bigfoot's hiding, and I don't bloody blame him. Yeah, I mean, I agree. We're evil. User 121 has wrote, when was the first report of Bigfoot? Well, technically, it was 1943 or 4. And that was a guy kid in the UK who saw a UFO land with his friends. He was out playing in the streets during wartime, and this UFO disc shape landed, big one, and out come little greys, out come a Bigfoot. Now, he in the UK had no idea, no knowledge of Bigfoot whatsoever, described it to the newspapers. Men in Black eventually came, long story. There's a whole story to it, but that would technically have been the very first report of a Bigfoot. And then obviously you've got the other one, which I think was in the 50s, 56, rings a bell, but I might be wrong, where the people in I think it was Andes or Himalayas or somewhere like that did that famous photograph of the Bigfoot with the pick ice axe. So technically the 40s, but not many people really know of that story. 6PK has wrote Illuminati. I'm not sure if that's a question or you're sort of referring to something that I was talking about earlier. Forgive me, I do like questions, because obviously if someone just writes down Bigfoot, I don't know how much they know about Bigfoot, so I don't want to go into loads of details if you already know about Bigfoot. And so with Illuminati, I don't know how much you know about them. So I don't want to sort of bore you if you like, I know all that. That's why I kind of like full questions. Pesque's wrote, I'm a targeted individual. Yeah, there is. You're probably not the only one. I'd be interested to know, obviously you won't want to tell me on here, but why you would be a targeted individual. I remember doing a radio show with Richard Serrett, and the person that came on after me was a targeted person. I didn't actually stay up. It was late. I was here in the UK, and they were or early in the morning, I think it was for me. But yeah, so I don't know why, but hopefully you can get round whatever it is and have a normal life. Avatar is wrote, ancient, powerful, and organised to help consciousness expand or enslave you. Free will gives you choice. I do struggle with the free will, because obviously I did a Ouija board and I asked a question and it said no to the question, which means, it was about my future, and it means that I know there's spiritualists and mediums out there saying, but it's one of many possibilities. No, you don't tell someone an answer, because also, mediums and spiritualists also give answers. So you can't say it's one of many futures if you've got something, whether it's a spirit or whatever, or a remote viewer looking into the future, and then giving you, because therefore that answer can affect your decisions in the future. So it ends up being the answer anyway. I don't know, I struggle with the free will side of it because of that sort of thing. Lucas wrote, was the you-know-what in the arm to protect us from aliens? No. No. It's, in my opinion, it's something that they've been planning for a long time. It's basically, there's a thing called Great Reset. You've probably heard of it. And in order to do a Great Reset, they want less people here so they can reset it all properly and get rid of, us climate change people, even though they're just as bad, the elites. But they'll use the climate change as an excuse for justify them still staying in power, but with less people around. And so I think it's not been used yet because they didn't get the uptake that they was expecting. So they're going to try and do many more things down the line. I mean, the Georgia Guidestones literally said how many people they want only on the planet. Christopher Anders has wrote, they're good at hiding for the most part. Bigfoot, yes, they are. And that's why, I'm guessing you're talking about Bigfoot, and that's why when people say they're interdimensional, I say no, they're not, because they wouldn't stand there hiding behind trees, throwing rocks. And they probably wouldn't even be here on... If they can travel somewhere better than here, then they really would, because they get shot at and people see them and they don't like it. PK has wrote, the what in the arms was to make us dumber. I think, in my opinion, from what I've looked at, I think there's a certain frequency that will be able to affect the thing that's inside the that goes inside you. And it just so happens in the last couple of years they've built these particular towers that has the ability, and they generally do. I know people say, oh, it's only for mobile phones. No, it's not just for mobile phones. And once they hit that, it's a particular frequency. It starts with a 6, and I'm doing this in cryptic, and it ends with an O. So you can probably figure out those two numbers, and then hertz. Once that switches on, then the substance affects people, and literally for a day will turn you into a zombie until you die. Which is funny enough, because now that everyone's talking about, or the last year, in fact, people's governments have been talking about what to do in a zombie apocalypse, which is kind of weird, because why would they say that? Let's be honest, why would they say that? And the Rushton Wombles wrote, but if there was such a thing as anti-gravity or free power, how come we don't have it? That's not the answer I was looking for about the Bigfoot. So hopefully you have answered that and not done what I said you might do, which would be try and divert the attention away from that question, because I haven't done psychology, but I've been around the block a bit. But I'll answer this question. Why is, if there is such a thing as anti-gravity or free power, how come we don't have it? Okay, so what you need to do is look up, and I know you're going to say, but I don't want to look up. There are people that have, in the past, created free energy devices. And they've been on the news and stuff like that. And then shortly after, their brakes fail on their car and they die. Or they unfortunately decide that their life isn't worth living anymore, and they do something to their own life, which is not actually them. That's how one of the ways they used to bump people off. So when you realise that these people have unfortunately met a very quick, timely death after announcing they've got these technologies, you start thinking, hey, that's a bit weird. One, maybe, but all of these people that's created these free energy technologies, or even anti-gravity devices, but why? How come we don't have it, is your question. And why don't we have it? Because guess who one of the... Okay, so you know the Rockefellers. You know how they started. They're in petroleum. And what do we need for petroleum? We need cars. And if we don't need petroleum anymore, who's going to stand to benefit? Free energy, anti-gravity, where no one needs to be billed for it, or petrol, where the Rockefellers continue to be in charge of a lot of things, and not just petrol. So they own museums. They apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently they're the ones that dictate what the American schools actually learn, the kids in school learn. Now that's power. That is power, when you're literally forcing the educational system to adhere to your version of what you want to be taught. So when you realise that if that's the sort of power these people have got, that's your answer right there. DXXM has wrote L content. I don't know what L content is, I'm sorry. DXX has wrote, I got a Bigfoot. I've got two. DXX means, which means big shoes, yes. Technically, sorry, don't hate me, this is just where my brain works. When you wrote, I've got a big foot, which means big shoes, what you should have really said is big shoe, because you're referring to a single. Sorry, it's just the way my brain works. Don't hate me. Avatar has wrote, pharmacy tech, 12 years here. Wouldn't you love to have the tech that well, I'm sure you probably have worked out a lot of stuff by now, what's going on in the world. Just from, if you're a pharmacy tech, you probably have seen stuff and heard stuff. But wouldn't you love the tech that aliens have? I mean, the little greys, where they have a light beam that can literally go. Don't ask me how it all works. But however, I did a video 4 months ago where I showed a newspaper article that showed that scientists have now managed to create levitation within a light beam. Hey presto, we've done it. All right, they can only lift tiny little things like polystyrene, but it's a start. So imagine having technology. I mean, but you got to also think that there's an old saying, isn't there? A cured patient is a patient lost. So, yeah, that's another problem we've got, because obviously pharmacy techs would be out of a job if you could not have their thing. MC's wrote, wow, what amazing evidence, and then laughing faces. I could go on about evidence, but you've probably gone now, the sort of person that would go. I could point you to actual evidence, and then you would say, I don't believe it, even though it's evidence, and mainstream have agreed that it's not from this earth, for example. You will say, I don't believe it, and therefore it's not real to you. So there's no point in talking to someone like that. DXX has wrote, I can answer that. I'm guessing that's the Bigfoot question, why dogs get their necks broken when they chase after a Bigfoot. And then PK's wrote Bigfoot, correct. DX has wrote, it's Trump supporters that go around breaking dogs' necks. I wouldn't know whether that's what they go around doing, but Avatar is right. If you want to find the evidence, you will. If you don't want to, if you wanted to, you wouldn't be asking, correct. That's well said, actually. So in other words, where someone's coming on, they would have probably done their own homework if they're interested in it. So, yeah. Sorry, whoever's trying to come in. It's an Arabic name by the looks of it. It's disappeared now. Just scrolling down. The Rushtons wrote, I'm not saying this stuff isn't true. That's when I asked about but it isn't proven that either. Well, so Bigfoot's hair has been tested. Now, again, hopefully you was listening to the fact that certain elite families literally run everything, and including universities and scientific institutions. When they're funded by these huge families, these institutions. So when you take the hair to places that's funded by these institutions, they either tell you, no, I'm not interested in doing it, mitochondrial DNA type of thing, to see whether it's a real Bigfoot or not. And if they do say, yes, we'll do it, they will come out with an answer that basically says it's human or from planet Earth. However, there are other institutions and even independent researchers that have these equipments where they're also given the same hair. So they split the hair up, not just one follicle of it, sort of thing. There's like a little clump of hair that normally gets caught on trees and branches and stuff. And they get the same hair. Now, when that one comes back, you get 10% human DNA and 90% unknown. Now, you're going to say, well, yeah, the same as what most people say. 10% human, it's human, isn't it? Bearing in mind, they've got as many, well, probably nearly all of the DNA for every mammal on this planet. So if they've got that and 90% is not of this planet, but people still go back to the 10%. Now, the 10%, I have to let you know that the 10% isn't human DNA, even though we call it human DNA, it's generic DNA. And I say that because fruit flies have got it, bananas have got it, everything's got see that I'm even doing it, has got this, what we call human DNA, which means if Bigfoot's got our DNA, doesn't mean it's human. It just means it's got generic DNA in it. So, to me, that's proof, but obviously you may not want to see that and may say, well, 90%, so what if it's 90%? That's a huge amount. In a court of law, 90% trumps 10%, and that 10% isn't human, it's everything. But the man has wrote, are we in a magnetic field of life? Not heard of magnetic field. I mean, there's a few theories out there, that simulations and a thought and in a bubble and all sorts of things. I've never heard magnetic. But even if we was, technically, we still are here. We still feel. We still live and die. So it wouldn't make much difference if we was in an electric field. I mean, the planet's been going around long enough to not worry whether or not we are. But I've never heard that one before. Ho Chin has wrote, do aliens believe we exist? They do. Well, the ones that... I suppose I'm just going through it in my head. Technically, the ones that probably haven't been visited, in other words, a race that's fairly primitive, that haven't had any visitation or not that they're aware of, wouldn't know that we exist, just the same as we wouldn't know they exist. But the ones that do come here clearly know we exist. The man has wrote, on other planets the trees are blowing the wind. That's hard to get my head around, but okay. DXX has wrote to Ho Ching, the plot twist, we are the aliens. Actually, that's partly true. Yeah, we're part aliens. Psych, the colour white, has wrote, that's really a point to consider. I'm not sure whether that was the point above or something I'd said. Rushton's wrote, I find abductions a bit of a reach. How come people don't see people getting abducted? Good question. No, it's a good question. So I'll give you one example. Lesbian couple, she gets abducted from her bed with her partner there. Her partner's out like a light, not because of drinking or drugs or anything like that. When that beam comes, they put her out, anyone in the room out. They're paralysed, totally unconscious. They zap up this lesbian woman. There's a reason why I'm saying lesbian woman. And they implant her, just as they did with Mary back in the day. They put her back down. 3 months, as time goes on, she realised she's pregnant. She's never been with a bloke before in her life. She goes to the doctors. Her partner, who wasn't awake when that happened, says, you've been with a bloke, you're cheating on me, gets into all sorts of problems. She goes to the doctors. Doctor says, no, you are pregnant. She's going, how? Doctor says, you must have been with someone. She's like, I've never been with anyone. Stop. So, third trimester, as pretty much regular as clockwork, aliens come back and they take paralyse the person, anyone near, and beam her up through a light beam through the ceiling. Yes, it can go through the ceiling, and so can anything that's in that light beam can go through it, phases through it. There was that story, I don't know if you guys heard me telling you before, about the person that broke their neck, but I'll tell you that if you're interested. But so anyway, this woman went through. They took the baby again. Took the baby at the third trimester. Dropped her back. She woke up, blood, on the bed sheets. Partner didn't know what was happening. Went to the doctors. Doctor said, "Yeah, surgically the baby's gone. Don't know how it's happened." This is just not one single case. This happens a lot, not just to lesbians, but so in the end, she went and got hypnotized because she wanted to know what the hell happened, and we find out that's what happened. So yeah, the answer to your question really is, when they're going to abduct someone, they're not going to leave the person awake to know the next person sitting beside them to know what's happening. The Watcher has wrote, aliens are the fallen ones spoken in the Bible. Yes. If you've done your homework, you'll come to the conclusion that it's the Agigi who were on Mars, which are the Anunnaki younger ones, and the word Agigi translates into watching or watchers something. I can't remember what the second part is. So yes, they are aliens, the Anunnaki, or Elohim, really, technically. The man has wrote, we are tiny microorganisms. Look at your tentacles, fingers and toes. Tentacles. Okay. Psych, the colour white has wrote, yeah, some kind of hidden agenda. Just ate Stiffia has wrote to Rushton. Why? It's not impossible. That's probably to say that, we can't be the only species in the whole galaxy universe. Rushton's wrote, it's usually just the abductee who has any knowledge. Yeah, they obviously the abductee is the one that will have a longer period of time and actually see stuff happening. So yeah, that's why they have knowledge, whereas the person that's sleeping or whatever beside them generally doesn't even remember anything that happened because they didn't actually see anything. Avatar has wrote, Rh negative humans prove different species of humans. Rh negative needs a special shot at birth. Yes, yeah, and when you and when you break down exactly where Rh negative come from mainstream and from the ancient text, it says 100,000 years ago from Mesopotamia. Both match up. And exactly when the Anunnaki started to breed with the Homo sapiens to create Homo sapiens sapiens. Wind Times, right? Bigfoot gets mistaken for Sasquatch, Yeti doesn't mind. I get it. I was reading that a bit too quick, but I got it in the end. Yeah, doesn't get it. Yeti doesn't get a good one. I'll read it for those that probably didn't, because of the way I read it. Bigfoot doesn't get. Sorry, I've got issues. Bigfoot gets mistaken for Sasquatch, yet he doesn't mind. Very good. I like that one. I'm going to nick that one. That's good. Felix has wrote, Bigfoot is 100% real. I'm guessing you've probably come across one. For people to say it's 100% real, they generally have seen one or seen the tracks or something. I'll be interested to know. Ryan's wrote, everything is a conspiracy. I wouldn't say everything, because, me having dinners, tomorrow night is not going to be a conspiracy. But yeah, I get what you're saying. There's a hell of a lot of stuff out there. And then Avatar has wrote back, Yeti is a good boy. A good guy, sorry. The man, everyone's funny tonight, except for me. The man has wrote, you're all non-playable characters, and I'm the main character. Okay, so I'm guessing you're feeling, well, see, the thing is, again, if we're all non-playable characters, does it matter? Because I still feel, I'm still talking to you guys now, I still have headaches and, whatever, so I feel happiness and sadness. Chaos wrote, would love to have a conversation with you on my podcast. No problem at all. I do have a website if you want to go there. Forgive me, hold on, don't run away. I have a website and it says interview me or chat with me, basically, it really means. So the website, and then you just click the link to contact me and then we'll set it up. No problem at all. Happy to chat. And that's www. Wait for it. Our True History. Yes, you guessed it. .co.uk. Or if you've got a pen and a piece of paper, Our True History, all one word, Our True History @hotmail.com, and just send me a message, or I will follow you if that's okay. And I see you've only got 86 followers. I don't know if you've got any videos on here, but when I have done lives, I'm not sounding big-headed here, but when I have done lives with other people on their channels, they've come back and thanked me and said, it's really helped their channel. I know it sounds really big. I'm just telling you what they told me. It's not. Temporary has wrote, I was abducted by the Dean Goldberries. They near somewhere. I don't know what Dean. I'm going to not name the planet because just in case it's a whole joke there and it's rude. Yeah, funny enough, I'm a bit of a stickler for rude things, only because I don't know who's listening. Kids, there was one point someone was chatting and said there was like only 14, and I was like, wow, okay. So I'm just conscious of that. Matt has wrote, how big were the biggest giants? Well, it's a good question. Go to the top of the class for that. The biggest we can kind of go with is 36 foot, and that's based on evidence of giant footprints, which we appear to have. Now, there are people out there that say there's a mile high giants, but they're saying that their argument is because there's big mounds and we're not allowed to dig in these big mounds. But my argument is, who the hell would want to stand there and bury, a mile long, digging up dirt to throw over a mile high giant? I mean, how wide would that be, even laying down? So no, I don't think they were a mile high, but 36 foot would have been the tallest that we've kind of come across from footprints. There's obviously the Anunnaki were 8 to 12 foot. We've got so many evidence of 8 foot, 9 foot skeletons. And when I say evidence, literally, if you go back through not necessarily Google, but if you go back through the archives of old newspapers, from the 1800s, 1900s, there's so many people have done this. There's so many stories of skeletons that they'd found that's 8 to 9, foot tall, and they donate them or gets money off of the Smithsonian, and then Smithsonian gets them, and that's the end of wherever we see them. Mark has wrote, if a beaver built a dam, it's natural, but if man builds a dam, it's not natural. Is that because we are the... I was trying to find the next bit there, but I can't see the next bit. Sorry. I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, so go to number 2 in the class for that. It's an interesting way of looking at it. So what you're really saying is, when we say something's man-made, which we do, therefore it's not natural. But if an animal does something, then it's kind of natural because it's not man-made. And I'm guessing you're asking, is that because we are either part alien, or is that because we're sentient enough that we can do these things? It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but it's a really good way of looking at it. Avatar has wrote to Ryan, life is a big old conspiracy, laugh out loud. Are we even alive or in hyperchambers asleep? Oh, don't say that, because sometimes when I wake up here in this version, I'm tired. So I'd rather have that long sleep. Use a Humpty Dumpty Peter Pan and unicorns are real. That's interesting. So users obviously been a bit of a Humpty Dumpty Numpty, but the point is unicorns could have been real. They really could have, because all it is an animal with a horn on its head. Now you could probably name a few already that we have now with horns. So it's not, it's not inconceivable that an animal in the past had a horn on its forehead. It's, we've got them now. So, yeah. Brett has wrote, my dad worked with them at Area 51. Aliens or Bigfoot? I'm guessing you're referring to probably aliens. I'm, without sounding rude, I don't mean to sound rude, but I'm surprised your dad would have told you that if that's the case. Not saying you're a liar, it's just, they really wanted to go after Bob Lazar. But luckily he'd already done what he needed to do by going on the radio, making himself well known. Dragons wrote, and Jesus, do you believe to be a hyperlinked text? Sorry, that's probably following on from something, but I can't see the original message. So I'm trying to. Jesus, do you believe to be a hyperlinked text? Don't know what that means. My opinion on Jesus is he's a hybrid, and people that have gone back to research the original Hebrew language, the texts, with the knowledge that we've got now as opposed to the knowledge when they were originally translated, it really does read like an alien abduction. Jeffrey Doherty, who was a priest, went and done it. You can go and look at his website, and he breaks down the actual translations now as opposed to the ones that we read in the Bible, which are all, there's a star and it's floating across the sky and some men are going to follow it and all this kind of stuff. Whereas the translation now, with the knowledge that we have, is there's a UFO in the sky and it's shining bright. Generation X is right. Hello, Generation X. Dragon's Bones wrote for the Bible. Hyperlink text for the Bible. I'm not sure what you mean on that, but I do think there was a character called Jesus, but obviously not a son of an almighty being who only created one sun to go around the whole planet. Yeah, right. That just doesn't sit with me. Ekad has wrote, hi bro, how are you? Peace and blessings. I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, not too bad tonight. I'm good, thanks. Hopefully you are too. Hope everyone is well. The man has wrote, we are not what we have been told. You have been conditioned since birth to believe you are human. I would be very interested to know what information you have to say different to that. Because technically, my brain's just going around now. Technically, if we're not human, what is human? We would need to know what a human is in order to be pretending that we are a human. Thank you, Pandera. Sorry. Do you see what I'm saying? So there has to be a human out there. Because if there's no other humans out there, then why aren't we human? Does that make sense? Why can't we be human if there's no other humans? So in order, you would need to have another human to say that we're pretending, or we've been conditioned to believe we are one of those humans. And that human may have 6 arms and be blue. But there has to be a human. Now, obviously, the original texts, which Sumerians talks about Adamu, which translates into human. So I would probably say we are human. The Rushton Wombles wrote, why don't you think it was just a dream? That's most logical. That's why I'm sitting on the fence on it, my problem is the time frame that I had that, where I was lying there, and I generally looked at. I'm not lying. I wouldn't lie. I looked at my phone. Someone had sent me a text, and it was 12 o'clock midnight. And I remember thinking to myself, "What a sod!" Woke me up. And then I went back to sleep. That whole incident happened, I got up and I grabbed the phone, and it was 2 minutes past, and I just don't think I could have got into a sleep deep enough to be able to hear myself saying, please leave me alone, please leave me alone, please leave me alone. And it wasn't at that point, this is 2010, I think it was, something like that. I hadn't come across anyone else that had said, but a few years down the line, I came across people where they have had abductions that have said they've hear themselves talking in their head, which is really weird. Not an alien talking, but themselves talking. And I thought, that's what I had. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say I definitely saw it because I sound like a nutter. There's me saying I believe in everything, and there's me saying I sound like a nutter. But I yeah, I can't say for sure. It may have just been because obviously I am into all of this, and I have been since I was 6. So it is, there's a tiny possibility that I may have just dreamt it. It's totally true. But the thing that got me is when my arm sprang up when they walked round a corner, and I was obviously trying to pull my arm up prior to that, and it literally just disappeared round the corner, not disappeared in front of me, and my arm just literally came straight up, which to me means I was trying to, because I felt paralysed. The only thing I could move was my eye. And then suddenly my arm came up. So I don't know. I don't want to sound like... Daniels wrote, it sounds like a dream. Yeah, I mean, it could be. But it literally was only a minute long, or 2 minutes max long. But again, it was only a 30-second, or probably 10, 15-second dream within that 2 minutes. So I guess it's possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Scrolling down. Dragons, since I'm still suffering like the rest, I'll pass your ideas till they sound reasonable. No problem at all. PK has wrote, I've seen a UFO, so I'm a believer. I always interested to know where people see these UFOs and what time of day and what kind of shape, if you don't mind. That fascinates me because I kind of keep a mental image of things. Corey Walks Well has wrote, we rise and fall constantly throughout our existence. We are a race with amnesia and denial. Now, people will say that, so forgive me, I'm just going through. So because we have an amnesia from about 3,000 years ago, where the pyramids, there was a war that happened in Egypt and in India, etc. It wasn't really a war, it was nuclear weapons. But because certain things, no one stayed around there because of the radiation, roll on another 1,000 years when people could then move back to those places, people seem to think that there was previous civilizations to even the Anunnaki where we have amnesia, because we had that amnesia at that point. And we only had that amnesia is because the Anunnaki, as they say in the text, literally say, and we've got proof of, not just proof of the green glass, which is caused by a nuclear explosion, but we've also got Indian texts talking about the Anunnaki flying around using these weapons where, their people's faces melt and all this kind of stuff. So literally from the Vimanas and using metal sort of spears. I don't use the word spears, but it's basically coming from, in other words, a rocket of some description. So I think we've only got one amnesia, and that was 3,000, approximately 3,000 to 4,000 years. I say approximately because I didn't actually write the exact time frame down. Marcus wrote, wrong, thousands of years ago. I'm not sure whether that was me or someone else. I'd like to know, if it was me, I'd like to know what I'd said that was wrong from thousands of years ago. The man has wrote, I think I've died before many times. Again, technically you wouldn't have died. Again, this is just my research from all the years of talking to mediums, clairvoyants, paying them, remote viewers, hypno-regression people. You wouldn't have died many times, but the spirit that joins with you had been around in other people many a time. So if you have that access to the spirit that joins with you, and I say spirit, light energy being, or orb, as some people know it as, joins with the pineal gland. If you've got access to that and you feel you can see the files, and I liken the orb to...
There is a text message.
Sorry.
There is a text message.
I liken the orb, the light energy being, to a hard drive. So once it's finished with you, it's got a new file, and it says the man's file, and it will go around, join someone else, and if the next person gets regressed, they'll say, "Oh, I remember I was the man." All they've done is access that file. It wasn't them; it's the orb that goes round. Otherwise, in the reincarnation is real, just look at the Virginia University studies. I'm doing series on my Patreon page, videos of everything you need to know about spirits. And I'm doing that right now. The last episode came out, which talks about reincarnation. The next one's also going to be doing reincarnation cases. So there's evidence of reincarnation. You can't deny these children, when they first speak, start telling you their real mother's name or their previous mother's name and how they died, and then they've got a birthmark there, and they know the street, and they know the bedroom, and they know the brothers and sisters' names. When these kids are only old enough just to talk, they start explaining, and then they get taken when someone like one of these researchers from the Virginia University will come along and find out about this kid, and then take them to the area that they say. And then the kids naming the people, nicknames, it's just, the list goes on, as well as the birthmark on how they died. Normally it's a traumatic death. Scott Smith is right. I'd feel foolish if I wasn't skeptical. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I probably would as well. Mark has wrote BY. I'm guessing that should have been maybe BYE. I don't know. Ainiorari Frost. Forgive me if I pronounce that wrong. What is the most compelling fact or evidence that aliens are real that you have found? I would probably go with the material that was found in Roswell, New Mexico. It's a piece the size of, I'm just trying to think of something now, probably 2 inches by nearly almost 2 inches, and it's layered with materials that we don't have on this planet. It's been molded flat, sheer flat, and it's been molded so that each of these materials in a subatomic level connect with each other. It's crazy. And now this piece of material not only was found in where the UFO crashed in New Mexico, but was taken to many different universities and establishments that have the ability to check what metals, where it is, blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. And the materials, one of the materials is what NASA uses for its heat seek, I don't know what the word is, it's gone now. But when a shuttle re-enters into Earth, they've got this particular material, and it's quite rare, this material that will be able to withstand the heat from the re-entry. And there was one microscopic layer of this material in with many other layers of this, whatever the other materials are, that's not even from this Earth. So, when you've got scientists all looking at it, scratching their heads, saying there's no way we could even if we had the materials, physically push all these together to make this flat piece of material. And it's not a meteorite. It's compounded the way it is and flat. I think that's pretty good evidence that an alien race created a. Thank you, Pandera, for the rose. Created something that's real. Robert Spencer's wrote, been targeted for 30 years. It is a shocking practice. I feel for you. Thank you, Pandera. Yeah, I feel for you. I know there's people out there who are targeted. Yeah, I mean, it's been going on a long time, so hopefully you can, it doesn't affect you in any way. Jay has wrote, how would you rate your math skills? Crap. I mean, just to let you know, I left school. First of all, didn't do any exams. I left beforehand, actually, because I wanted to buy a video camera, and I was only 16 at the time, and I being at school meant I weren't earning, so I left anyway. But I would have failed every exam. I couldn't spell. I mean, I was still reading Peter and James. I was in special needs at school as well, which didn't help. And I could just about tell the time, and I couldn't even.
Email message. There is an email message.
Sorry, I couldn't even do the alphabet. So basically, math, very basic math, not Pythagoras theory or anything like that. So, yeah, not great, I'm afraid. The man has wrote, if we are here, then there has to be aliens. Also, there is too much life on Earth. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I was watching a program last night on octopuses, and the fact that they've got brains in their tentacles as well as in their head, and they can do so much, just so clever. I know people sometimes say that octopuses come from outer space, etc. But the thing is, the program was about who's why are we the smartest on this planet? Are we the smartest on this planet? And then they were showing this octopus, and it's just that alone. If that maybe wasn't, I mean, it's got all the cognitive abilities that we have. It can puzzle solve. Whether or not it's got humour and stuff, I don't know. But it's got puzzle solving. It can camouflage. It can do so much more than we can, really. So all it takes is one of these type of creatures on another planet, or even the octopus, over a longer period. Now, they were called cephalopods, I think they said. But if they had a longer period in time and maybe managed to walk on Earth, would they eventually end up over a long period of time being smarter than us? Hell yeah, I think so. Sorry, scrolling down. 6PK has wrote, I still don't know why I'm targeted though. I guess they don't like the truth I'm spreading. Oh, if you're, yeah, that's, you've said it there, really. That's it. I mean, did you see what PayPal's apparently doing? Wait for it. So if you're spreading what they believe is misinformation, they will fine you, take from your PayPal / bank account, because they have your card details, 1,200, I think it was 1,200 or 1,250 pounds from your account if they feel you are spreading misinformation. What gives them the freaking right to be judge, jury? Clearly, obviously, we know PayPal was originally owned by Elon Musk, but he's not anymore. Obviously, he sold it. But, it's now owned by eBay. I think they may have sold it. Did they sell it recently? Sold it off. But either way, it's Big Brother attacking us. Yeah. So whatever you do, in the future, we're being targeted with the technology, the way it's going to go with cars and phones and everything. And the money's going to be tied to your credit score system that they're going to put out. You can't say anything that's not agreeable, because they will just shut your car down. They'll shut your bank down. They'll shut everything down. Your electric. Scary world. Scary. And we're allowing this to happen. Eric's wrote, you speaking is being clipped and cut. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me know. I don't know whether that's the Wi-Fi, so I'm going to turn it off Wi-Fi. So just bear with me for a second. It might go on to, or hopefully will go on to my data. Hello, and hopefully you can still hear me now. Yeah, so you should be back. I'm now on data. Sorry about that. I don't know if that makes any better if someone lets me know. The Rushton Womble has wrote, but what would make you think you're being targeted. That was to the person above. The Rushton Wombles wrote, what has actually happened? Can it have more reasonable explanation? I'm guessing that's again to the same person. Alberts wrote, yes, TikTok worth listening to according to the headlines. I love these topics. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I get that a lot without, I'm not because I'm big-headed, but I'm proud. I'm happy that people find the TikToks that I do or the lives that I do sort of more engaging than many. And, I've come across people doing the similar as me, but they leave, forgive me for saying this, but they leave such long gaps. I try and talk really quickly so that it doesn't, thank you, Candy, for the rose. I try and talk really quickly so that there's, no long gaps and people talking slow and boring and whatever. I can't do that. That kills me. JR wrote, demons account for 90% of apparitions. As for flesh and blood, there's possibly giants still around. Oh, what, JR, why did you mention demons? You do realise that the first mention of demon in ancient Sumerian text, which is basically means a meteorite that comes in from outside of Earth. A comet with a tail was actually described as a dragon. Over the years, people have ended up using the word demon to literally mean anything. I've had people saying we're demons. I've had people saying UFOs, the actual craft are demons. I've had people saying Bill Gates is demons. Well, that was me saying that. Fair enough. Okay. But the point is, there is no description of a demon because it's just like a monster. You can describe a monster, but whatever your monster is will be different to mine. It's just a name for something you find evil, whereas a monster is something you find scary. So when you say demons account for 90% of apparitions, I wouldn't say that. I would say there's apparitions, and whatever they are is whatever they are. The closest we would have, in my opinion, it's just my learned opinion, would be, as a demon, would be the jinn. But again, they're not, a demon is just a phrase that we use. But Albert's right. Why don't need the what? Sorry, start again. I think I have dyslexic. We don't. There we go. I don't even know where I got why from. We don't need the what. No, I don't think we do. That's the hopefully people know what we're talking about. Oh, nearly knocked it all the way down there. I don't think we do. I mean, I didn't have it, and Jace, sorry, scrolling down. Roberts wrote to the Rushton Womble, these people who target others are using SOP that the KGB and girls used. And then the Rushtons wrote to J.R. Smith, have you ever seen a giant? Technically, to be a giant, you only need to be a certain height, and we've got basketball players taller than that. So that's by our definition of what a giant is. I think it was 6 foot something, 6'7", 6'9", or something like that. But obviously you're referring to giants as opposed to... Tiffany's wrote the what starting with a V, ended with scene. Is going to make zombies. Yeah, it will. But I think from doctors that I've listened to that talk about what actually this particular... I have to be careful how I say the words. It starts with graph, and then I'm going to talk, and then ends with een, and then starts with ox, and ends with eyed. Now that apparently a certain frequency that supposedly is also in the whats. I'm sure they're going to be tracking the word whats. But anyway, I would. But yeah, what it does is this literally almost looks like it comes alive, and it will go upwards towards your brain. And when you've got enough of that collectively in your body, it works its way to the top. Obviously, by having the more and more what's in your arm, the more and more you're going to have collectively that will be able to affect your brain, and the doctor said it will take about a day, 24 hours or so before you pop off. But in between that, you will be pretty much like a zombie. JR's wrote, free power would cost energy companies. Yeah, that was what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, it would. Well, they wouldn't want it. Look what happened to Tesla, not the company, but Nikola Tesla, where he was trying to give away the Wyoming Tower, I think it was called, where he worked out how to create energy from literally the air around us and the ground and everything. And then Edison, was it not Edison? Not Westinghouse. Morgan, was it? I think Morgan, JP Morgan, who was backing him, said, how are we going to monetize free energy? And Tesla said, well, no, we won't. Everyone will have it. And he said, tear it down. So, it's all about money, for greed, really. Georgia has wrote, in the 90s, there was a commercial from the CDC talking about a zombie apocalypse. If you actually looked last year, I don't know if it's still there, but last year when all the what's was going around, people taking whatever, on their website they actually had how to survive a zombie apocalypse. They put it up on their website last year, so they're not. It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, too much of a coincidence, I think. JR's wrote to the Rushton, have you ever seen Shark? I don't know how you pronounce his name. I think he was a basketball player, was he? Very tall guy. Alberts wrote, just right. Demons are not the cause of that. Demon reptilians run Christianity Catholic Church. Again, what you've done is you've sort of picked a name, demons, and then actually gave it a description as reptilians. Do you see the problem there? It's like so what you've done, really what you should be saying is evil reptilians, because demons is just a name for something evil that you're not aware of. So that's just my take on it. AIs wrote, after searching I can confirm that I am a reptilian person. I would be very interested to know what your conclusion, how you got to your conclusion. George has wrote, I just posted it about 3 weeks ago. I'm just trying to remember what Georgia wrote. Oh, about the CDC. Yeah, it's they did it last year as well, yeah. Rushton's wrote, but where is the free power? Well, if you look up Tesla, and you'll find out that he did make a free energy device called the Wyoming Tower, I think. And you'll find out Morgan, if it was Morgan, I think it was, asked him how do we monetize free energy, and he said we can't. And Morgan said tear it down, tear the device down. It was a big tower that he built. So that's where the free power is. No one's going to want to do it. Georgia wrote, FIT or FIT was also freaking weird. I don't know what FIT is. You got me on that one, sorry. JR's wrote to Rushton, he's answering that question now. I don't know how far I am behind. These are live, by the way, but because I'm replying to questions that you may not even see because you joined after. PK's wrote, yeah, I've heard about a man that created a water power car. Yeah, there's loads, and then he died. Yeah, there's loads of people out there that have created things that we could have used. Kelly's wrote, easy, they don't want us to have. And that was in capitals. JR's wrote, Tatonka has wrote 40 years of research in nothing. No problem at all. I will just block you, because obviously the last thing you want to do is accidentally find one of my videos where I point to things that actually are fact, but let's not go down that road. Let's just block you, because I don't want to upset you. It's not letting me block this. Oh, there it is. Sorry about this, folks. When you realise that this person doesn't do videos or that, you kind of think, okay, clearly a troll. Because I wouldn't go on someone else's, even though I have seen people that's made mistakes and stuff, I could quite easily go on there and say, you missed this, or on their lives and say, look, go here, go there, but no. Kelly's wrote greed. Yeah, Kit Kat has wrote, and after they are gone, nobody uses the technologies, so that says a lot. Peach had just blocked Tonka as well. Well done, Peach. Sorry, I'd realised you was probably sitting again. He's blocking her, and I've already blocked. I'm guessing it's a bloke. It's more than likely a bloke. Dana Scully. Hang on, there's a name there. There's a name. We all know who that is. Hands up. Who knows who Dana Scully is? Give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Yes, it is the female lead in X-Files. The original X-Files. They're probably going to remake one, so I say the original just in case. Dana Scully's wrote, true, many inventors who want to benefit humanity die suddenly, or their technology is taken away, etc. Yeah, supposedly, when Nikola Tesla died, literally within minutes, some people went in there and took all his papers and everything to do with technologies and stuff that he was probably creating, or had planned or patented or whatever. They went in there and took all his paperwork. JR's wrote, root of evil is money. Without it, the world would be a wonderful place. Yeah, I mean, one of my questions years and years and years ago that I needed to find out, and I did, was how does for example, the Zeta Reticuli, I'll say them because they're not the robotic type ones, they're the silicon-based ones that's alive. But how do they survive? Do they have money? From what I understand, over the years, we're the only planet that uses a monetary system. So how the Zetas work, sorry if I'm boring you, is when their baby starts to grow up, they let it experiment with literally everything. So, music, science, everything. They're not pigeonholed like we are in school. You got 5 lessons, and if you don't learn French, then tough. And then we're going to examine you on it. So what they do is they teach, they let the child find what the child really wants to do. And then as the child grows, they nurture that. Obviously, if the child's more and more interested in it, some of them, are cooks. Some of them are happy to be, their mental state are just, even though they're far more intelligent than us, is just happy to be a plodder along, go and, clean up. So the whole way of life is basically, if you enjoy doing what you're doing, you're not working, and therefore the people that are helping you, e.g. the cooks, you're helping them because you're doing the cleaning up after. And it just is a society where basically everyone helps everyone by doing what you love best. So for me, I'd probably be making movies, and there'll be people out there that will be happy to, watch me and help me type thing. You know what I mean? So that sort of, yeah. Lottie's wrote researching in inverted commas, and then wrote laugh my arse off. In other words, they don't believe I've done any researching whatsoever. So I'm just gonna... Oh, another troll. I say troll because, again, when you look at what they've got, again, I wouldn't go on to... And I have been on other people's sites, lives, where I'm sitting there biting my tongue. But I just couldn't do it. I'm not a child or a troll. Jimmy's wrote, just think about how chasing more than one of those things make you a joke. I'm going to try and get my head around that. Just think about how chasing more than one of those things makes you a joke. Like aliens, Bigfoot, spirits, etc. Well, I mean, aliens have become a lot more prevalent in the last couple of years, especially with the Tic Tac incident being allowed to be shown, etc. So I think there's some mileage now on the ufology side of it. Crofty has wrote, what do you know about sky creatures? Now, are these, because I mean they didn't really have a name, are these the ones that are in our upper atmosphere, stratosphere? I don't know if that's the ones you're talking about. So basically, there was a gentleman that was in the war, and long story short, there are these creatures that are in our upper atmosphere, living, breathing, breeding, microscopic, but they are there. So I don't know if that's the same one you're referring to. Now, this guy, when he got all the research and everything done, and he collected samples and whatnot, he went to different institutions and said, "Look what I found. It's amazing." Blah blah blah. And not one of these institutions. Now, whether or not he went to ones that were funded by companies or people like the Rockefellers, I don't know, but not one of them was interested whatsoever. He even contacted the History Channel, which is to try and get them interested, but no one was interested. Now, whether or not they already know, if that's what you're talking about, I don't know whether these creatures are harmful, harmless, needed, accidentally put there recently. Are they part of the chemtrails? I don't know any of the answers to that, but this guy seemed to believe that they were there for a very long time, living in our atmosphere. Terry has wrote 40 years and still got nothing. We've got some lovely people tonight, haven't we? I'm just going to block Terry. I bet Terry was listening. I have had that. I've had numpties come along and try and knock me down, and then as I carry on and I've not blocked them, or even if I've blocked them, I carry on and they start to talk properly and actually ask questions, but by then I'd already blocked them. So, lesson, don't be rude on someone's live, I guess. Georgia's wrote, love your accent. I don't think I have one, but thank you. Where I live, everyone probably sounds the same as me, but thank you very much. The man, did we really land on the moon? If we did, it was in later missions, plus, obviously, when they created the TR-3 and then the TR-3B, yes, they did with those craft. Those are the triangular man-made UFOs. They can get to the moon within a few minutes. But the actual Apollo missions, if at all, I think it would have been the later missions. I don't think it would have been the earlier missions. Yamil has wrote, hi Yamil, thank you for joining. The man has wrote, is the Earth flat? Well, I've got some pinned videos, and I just asked, I got a couple of questions on each, and I just asked for anyone to give me a sensible reply, and they can't. And in fact, I do go on other people's flat Earth videos where they're talking about, look, so you can see, no curvature, and they're looking from a balloon or a rocket that's up really high, and the camera spins round and shows the Earth, but they're saying, look, no curvature. And then I type on there, why is it always in the middle? And they don't understand because they don't seem to comprehend. But then I have to write back and say, you would only be in the middle on a ball. If you was on a flat Earth, some of these rockets or things, such as the ones that's in Australia, would be nearer to the edge, only 4,000 miles, and yet we can still see equal distance. So yeah, no, we're on a globe basically. Goo Bysters wrote, if Bigfoots are out there, wouldn't we find their bones like we do with all land animals? They travel in pairs, at least in pairs. So if someone shoots one, which we've had stories of people shooting them, they can't lift them. I mean, these things are freaking, I don't know the weight of them, but they're not light. There's no way a person would be able to carry it. So if a person goes away to go and get a car to try and bring it back to pick it up, which has happened in the past when people have shot them, the Bigfoot's gone. So, in other words, been taken away by one or more other Bigfoots. And they do bury them, from what I understand. And they put these little rocks in a pile, but they don't. The Bigfoot's not buried directly underneath that. It's buried near that area, from everything that I've learnt from all the people that do the Bigfoot research. And the man has wrote, where are we really? Deep question, but as far as we're concerned, I think, we've got a life to live, and even if we're in a simulation, we're still here with we're going to come and we're going to go. PCAD sent me a welcome ×1. Thank you very much. You didn't have to. Nick has wrote, are you familiar with Dogman? Yes, I am. I do struggle with Dogman. I know I've said it a million times. It's a really modern phenomenon, because I've been doing this for a long time, and it really is a modern phenomenon. So is Shadow Man, and so is Hat Man, and obviously Slender Man, but that's an internet thing. But Dogman, Mothman's older, but Dogman's a new one. And as much as we hear about people talking about Dogman, I've even heard someone on my live saying about Catman as well. Well, but the problem with that, and Skinwalkers even, is we've got nothing. Bigfoots, we've got footprints, we've got hair, we've got scat, we've got stories, we've got eyewitnesses, we've got dogs with broken necks, we've got all sorts of things with Bigfoot. But Dogman, we've got nothing to go on other than just, I saw a Dogman, half dog, half man. So I'm not saying it's not true, it's just, the reports are sporadic. There's no correlation in area. So in other words, it's not always in a particular area. It's really difficult to pinpoint on that. So I struggle with Dogman. Bring in the Lovers wrote, hi there. Birds has wrote, yes, Goobista most likely. I think that was something else was talking about something. And then Birds has wrote, I feel like they have too small a population to survive, genetically speaking. If there were more, we'd find them. So I'm guessing that's referring to Bigfoot. Now, there is people out there that literally, do this as a day job, and they catalogue every time people say they've seen a Bigfoot, etc. Now, there are a few people that do this, and the reports of the amount ranges quite a lot. So it's really difficult to from these researchers. Now, the reason why it ranges quite a lot, so it goes from 2,000 right up to 40, 50,000. And the reason, spread along the whole of America. Now, the reason why there's a discrepancy is because Bigfoot has been known to travel along railway tracks in a, migration. So obviously when it's probably colder or whatever, they seem to move, and they take their family with them. So of course, when someone's catalogued them down one area, and then another person sees the same ones but don't know that they're from a different area, and they catalogue them again, reports from people, then it becomes really hard to narrow right down. So it's difficult to give you a figure on how many really there are. And obviously, if they do travel from a genetic point of view, then they may be breeding with other ones that are not of their clan. The man has wrote, what is blood really, and if we drink blood, will we live longer? I probably wouldn't have said yes to that. I'm not a doctor, so everything that I say, do your research on, but I probably wouldn't have said that. And the reason why I wouldn't have said that is because the Anunnaki took this, what they call the elixir, which is a plant, and that helped them rejuvenate, which is where we get the story of Fountain of Youth. But if the Anunnaki found out that drinking blood would rejuvenate them, then they probably wouldn't need the elixir that they brought from their home planet to Earth to try and grow, and it only growed in one place. So, I don't know. They were smarter than us by at least 300 years from now. So I don't know. I can't see. Now there are stories on walls in Egypt that talk about digesting some sort of monatomic gold or powdered gold or something like that supposedly then also helps you with the aging process. Now, that's an assumption based on the carvings on the wall. There's no sort of hieroglyphs that say, if you take this, then this is what's going to happen to you. So it seems to be an assumption. I don't know. I mean, there was succubuses back in the day in Sumerian times, but again, vampires, not vampires, vampire bats drink blood, obviously. They still come and die. If I'm just saying, if anything should live forever, or have a longevity of life, it would be the things that naturally breed off of or live off of blood, I would have thought, because it'd be a bit stupid if they didn't, but they don't. They come and die, same as parasites, etc. So, no, I think if you're gonna, I think we have I think certainly the military have the ability to switch certain DNA markers on and extend our life, because a few weeks back I came across one of the articles, or not articles, but one of the translated papers of Sumerian tablets, which talked about after the flood they did genuinely do something to us to stop us from living as long as we was prior to the flood. I hadn't come across that before. If I did, I didn't pay much attention to it. So in other words, if the Anunnaki stopped us, because before that they was happy for us to live a long period of time, because obviously we was mining for them. And then after that, because they didn't like the way we was breeding, they didn't like how many there was of us, they didn't like how loud we was, they did something to us. And there was only a handful of people back then. Obviously there was Noah, plus some others that did survive the flood. So the gene pool wasn't huge, so they could have quite easily manipulated the few handfuls that they did have of people with their life. Censored has wrote, "Are the real?" I'm guessing that's, are they real? In other words, the things in the background, such as aliens. Yes, aliens definitely real. Bigfoot definitely real. Spirits, yes. It's hard for people to get their head around spirits, but when you've spoken to enough clairvoyants, mediums, spiritualists, regression people, and researched into near-death experiences, and researched into past life regressions, yeah, they're definitely real. Planto has wrote, "Spiritual warfare is not for the weak." I would agree with that. Crypto has wrote, "LMFAO." Hopefully it was funny, something funny I said. Let's be honest, it's not. It's going to be laughing at my subject matters, but we'll pretend that the person's laughing at something funny I said. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much. Dice has wrote, "We at Three Wars." I'm guessing you're probably talking about Linda Moulton Howe's, where she's talking about, forgive me if I'm wrong, but you haven't given me much to go on, where she talks about the Greys, the Palladians, and the Reptilians all fighting each other. The man has wrote, "True spiritual attack." I'm guessing that's a reference to a computer game where you would something like Pikachu or something. It's me has wrote, "Good evening." Good evening to you too. Nice of you to come. Dice has wrote Intergalactic Warfare. That was continuing on from We Were at War 3. Yeah, so it probably was the same sort of thing that I mentioned. 6PK has wrote to the man. Yeah, the blood from the children, I'm guessing children, apparently helps you live longer. Well, there's there's that. Yeah, I don't want to go into the name. You all know the name. Yeah, starts with, I think it's Adren. I'm not going to say the full name. But I don't know. I'm not a doctor on that. Nick is right. I don't believe Bigfoot is a primitive animal. He's not. Bigfoot, from all accounts, from people that stayed with them, is an alien race, which matches with the people that many people, including the first person that's ever saw a Bigfoot reportedly in the UK, coming out and working with the little greys, which again, back then there was no such thing as greys in the 40s, because if you think 43 was, or 44 was prior to Roswell, New Mexico, which was 47. So for some children to make up a Bigfoot and little greys, and then turns out many years later other people have seen Bigfoots coming out of craft. So the ones that's here were on a prison ship that crashed at least 10,000 years ago, and they obviously, the ones now are descendants of those ones that crashed, and they've been left here because they were from a prison ship, whereas the other ones that are flying around with the little greys are flying around with the little greys. So yeah, I think they're not primitive at all. Dice has wrote War with Ourselves. Oh, right, okay, so that was when I said about the three. Thank you, Pandera. When I said about the three that I thought you was talking about, you're saying we're at war, 3 wars with ourselves. I'm not aware of that. I'm interested to know. Crypto has wrote no wrong. I love it when people just write no wrong instead of actually putting down, clearly knowing that I'm probably an hour or two behind on the messages, that I will then have to try and remember what I was talking about to be able to say no and then give my version of it. So, Crypto. George has wrote, what about the creatures Mexican ranchers found? Winged creature, feet and hands like ours. Are you referring to the little creature that got caught in the trap in Mexico? It didn't have wings, but it was a little, I don't know, probably less than a foot high creature. If that's the one you're referring to, then people would have seen that running around their little town beforehand, and then they ended up getting caught in I think it's a bear trap or some type of trap like that. Massive thing that's got big jaws on it, and it got caught in it, and it was making the screaming sound. And forgive me if I'm not talking about the same one. And the farmer bloke went into his barn and saw it screaming, and he didn't know what to do, so he threw acid over it. Subsequently, he was on news and everything saying, he thought it was a demon. There you go, another demon. Just someone pick a demon and stick with it, for God's sake. But yeah, so he found a demon or creature that he thought was a demon. He's very spiritual, so that's the reason why he threw the word out, demon. But there was some discrepancy later on about that, and he ended up saying that he faked it. Even though he can't prove how he faked it, he just said he faked it. And when you realise that you look into his eyes from the first interview where he's petrified by this thing, thinking that, the devil's coming for him next, petrified, to then turn around saying he faked it, even though people said, okay, well, how did you fake it? He says, I faked it. Because obviously couldn't tell, because it was a genuine creature. Now, you realise, looking in his eyes, he was got to. Because that happens a lot with people. When they're told to change their story, or else they change their story. And so you could just tell in his eyes. Anyway, the people that have studied that actual creature, this pretty much a skeleton, have concluded it's not of, it's not a, what's the word, taxidermy, which is generally how these creatures are made, to fake things or smaller ones like that. And then also, similar size to that, we had another one with the ridge on its head, which, if you watch my videos in order from number 1 onwards, because it makes more sense, there was another one that was found in, not Egypt, there was another one, where was that first one found? Wasn't anywhere near Egypt. Anyway, the second one they found in Tutankhamun's chamber, and it was wrapped up, mummified. Lo and behold, now bearing in mind the first one that they found they said it's a one-off, it's this, that, and the other, and it's because of the particular area that it was in. It might have been Mexico, for all I remember. And it's got a little ridge on its head. Anyway, I did obviously research, and there was one that Tutankhamun had, and both of them girls, that was mummified, and there's no way that creature. And they said the Egyptian people say, oh, it was a baby of Tutankhamun's, and then you say, okay, but these two now are identical, almost identical, same height, both female, both got the ridge on the head, both literally tiny, whereas the Egyptian people are saying, oh, it was like almost like a fetus and just deformed, and yet the other one over at a different place, another country, they said no, it was because a totally different reason. So you can't have two identical ones and then have two different reasons. It doesn't make sense. So clearly there is these tiny little creatures that are or were roaming around in our past. Sorry if I waffled on that. Oh crap, it's gone all the way to the bottom. Sorry, sometimes it does that. It scrolls all the way to the bottom because there's so many messages, and because I won't say waffle on, because I talk about the subjects in depth, unlike some people out there on their lives that probably haven't got that much knowledge. Without knocking them, I don't mean to knock them, it's just I've listened to them and frustrates me. Wow, okay, there was a lot of messages. Right, okay, I've gone to the very, very top. Okay, I've not missed any. Just scrolling down. 3 wars, children, spiritual wars, getting there. Mexican creature. So I don't know if that's the one you're referring to, sorry. Sean has wrote, am I wrong in thinking I have heard your voice on some documentary and maybe the Discovery Channel? I have done documentaries, and my voice has been used on some of them. Not that I've got a good voice, it's just because I've produced the documentaries myself. But I don't think anything's been shown on the Discovery Channel of mine. Watson's wrote, did the Anunnaki believe in good or bad? Good. To a point, good. I'm just plugging my phone in, and it's probably going to overheat like it's done once before. Yeah, it's a good question. So I got number 3 in the class for that. And I say good because, and I wanted to talk about this bit, the translations of the Sumerian text. Now, everyone seems to go, Sitchin's wrong. The Oxford University has translated many of the same texts that Sitchin has translated. And lo and behold, they virtually say the same thing. However, compared to the Lost Book of ENKI, this is really important if you're interested in Anunnaki stuff. So the Lost Book of ENKI, when it gets to, I'm just using this bit here as an example, when it gets to the bit where the Anunnaki ENKI tries to create the first humans, and it fails, Zecharia Sitchin's book skims over, doesn't go into detail too much about what happens. He says, the first one come out with no, covered in hair or something. The second one come out with no feet. Third one, very, very brief. However, the Oxford University had completely, obviously, gone through that tablet. Now, Sitchin knew it already, but in his book, he weren't going to sit there and the book would have been massive if he wrote absolutely everything. So if you go to the Oxford University and look at their translation of that same part, this is why I say they're good to a point. When they came out, the description of each one has a deformity, and it tells you the deformity, and it's really sad to hear. And when they come out, ENKI is talking to Nimna, which is also Nin Harsag, is talking to her, and he says, for her, I will let this one be so there's one with no voice, for example, and I can't remember exactly all of them. I'm going to be doing a Patreon video on all of this because I think this is absolutely phenomenally fantastic, and I'll be also pointing on my Patreon videos to where everything is on these tablets, which is why I'm going back through them, because I know people keep saying to me, well, they don't actually say to me, they trust me, but I want to prove where the literature is that you can actually go and research yourself. But so he says, forgive me, I can't remember exactly, so I'm just going to make some of them up. The first one, for example, had no voice, and he says, this one will be the king's maid. So he's given her a job and will feed her bread, or something like that, words with the bread. In other words, they're not... See, I wondered whether or not they destroyed the poor creatures, that the first ones that Sitchin was talking about. I thought, did they kill him? Because these come out deformed. Like, what kind of people are the Anunnaki? Would they have just said, nah, bin it, and just threw it to the wolves? I don't know. At that point, I didn't know. But luckily, the Oxford University, wrote it all down. So the second one comes out with, like, twisted feet, can't walk. And then so ENKI says, this will be the king's consort, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And we will give her bread. And so on. And one actually came out, and I do remember this, one came out with no genitals whatsoever, male nor female. And he said, oh, this will be the court, for the kings, blah, blah, blah. So basically he gave them jobs. Now when they did it the other way round, and Nimna Ninharsag was the one that was actually carrying the baby, because before that all of those other ones came out of the Neanderthal, but because it wasn't working, they needed they come up with the idea of doing it in a clay bowl instead of their own. A clay bowl, we know where they say made from clay, humans meant, no, it was a bowl, because ENKI says, no, let's make it, instead of our own, everything sterile, we'll use their own planet's materials so anyway, so Nimna gives birth, and this one comes out absolutely totally deformed, can't move, can't do anything. And ENKI says, what to Nimna, what do we do with this one? And Nimna says, don't ask me. And then ENKI says, but I've given all these ones here a position, basically was that effect. What do you give this one? And Nimna says, well, I don't know, don't ask me. And I'll leave the answer, the final part of that, for my Patreon page, or you can just go to the Oxford University and read the thing. But so from that point alone, I think that in their hearts they were good, until they got a bit power hungry with the humans later on, where they ended up abusing human women, if you get what I'm trying to say. So as a general rule, I think they were good. Sorry if I waffled on there. Crypto has wrote, ideas are not theories. Hopefully you've listened enough now, if you're still around, to know that I'm pointing to evidence. Troy has wrote, sound waves. Not sure what I was talking about at that point, or unless you want me to talk about sound waves. This is why I like questions in full, because I'm kind of, as good as I am at mind reading, I don't know. Sorry. Pesque has wrote, what about mermaids? Anyone seen one? They look scary. But people have seen them. Ancient sailors, when I say ancient, even pirate times, Blackbeard's wrote about them 3 times, as we've got in the in the Greenwich Nautical Museum, there's logbooks. They call them logbooks for ships. There's logbooks of sailors saying they've seen sirens singing. Now, there was a video on TikTok or YouTuber that filmed what he believed was a mermaid swimming beside the ship. I've watched the video. I've listened to the audio on it, and he took this, what he believes is a towel bone to a place to have it looked at, and they weren't sure what it was. But so forgetting that video, but you can go and try and find that on the internet. It's interesting. I mean, obviously, I'm skeptical, and the reason why I'm skeptical is he's filming it, this creature, in night time. He's on this massive ship, so he's not the only person, and he's walking, and over a period of time, not just one day, these screams and possibly voices are coming from out in the sea that you can't see, but we can see in the camera a thing that possibly could be a mermaid swimming, I don't know, 50 yards off the side of the boat. Now, the reason why I say I'm skeptic is because he's already filmed this before. He's already heard this before. And now, the first thing I would do, once I've already established once or twice before that this seems to be a pattern, and I'm the only person on the boat that seems to be seeing it, I would grab someone else on this boat. It's a working boat. It's a trawler ship, I think it is. So he's got enough personnel to grab one of them and say, for God's sake, come and have a look at this. Why is it him? Why can't he go over and interview someone else on the ship and say, did you see that? No, it's just him. Always him. So when I say I'm skeptic, and I would like to see the high-def version, or at least the full quality version. I only saw it on TikTok, of the actual swimming. Just from the TikTok one, I was a little bit, because I do CGI, I was a little bit on the CGI side myself. So there's my theories on that particular person, if you've seen that video. But mermaids, yeah, I mean, we've got written records of Sumerians, ENKI, literally ENKI, creating mermaids, two different types. Then we've got Poseidon, also known as ENKI, which also created mermaids. And then we've got stories of mermaids throughout the years. We've also got ENKI creating other half this and half that, which we've got carvings of, minotaurs and centaurs and griffins and stuff like that. So we I think there probably was mermaids. Whether there still are, hard to say. But if you are the way ENKI was, which was creating many different species because he had the technology and the skill and no one to stop him, then yeah, you probably would. You probably would create as many different creatures as you could. Dice has wrote, we are celestial beings, energy. I don't think we are. I think the light energy beings that Emerald Tablets Thoth talk about, plus the mediums, clairvoyance, plus regression people, I think they're celestial beings. I think we are just containers. We are, flesh and blood, so to speak. We're containers for them, as what the little greys have called us, containers for them. Ryan has wrote, here we go, wait for a knockdown, everybody. 40 years and you don't know yet, laugh out loud. If you want all the answers, find me. And there was the knockdown. Sorry, someone's trying to join us live. 40 years and you don't know yet, laugh out loud. If you want all the answers, follow me. Let me just see whether this person's... I don't know who that person is, but I'll stick with my research. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but where I point to things that's or I tell you that I'm, these are my views. I don't want to get mixed up with someone else's views, because obviously if your views are different to mine and you can't point to the things that I point to, or point to anything, then one of us is probably going to be more right than the other one, and I'll stick with me. Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude. Jaden has wrote, so are all aliens third dimensional? Well, see, okay. When you say third dimensional, like, for example, the light energy beings can travel from my own experience from doing a Ouija board, and from the countless, I've read all sorts of books on, proper people that actually do talk to spirits, and I've spoken to too many mediums and clairvoyants, basically. So the spirits basically can get to you just by you thinking of them. So wherever they are in the universe, they can get to you. Now, that is third dimension, I guess, because technically we can't do that ourselves. So straight away, that's one race that can do that. Little greys, Zetas, are they, without technology, a third dimensional being? Chances are probably no. I think they have technology
Someone has sent you a
to do
WhatsApp.
that. So I probably wouldn't say all aliens are third dimensional. I would say some have the ability to be, and some use technology to be. Watson has wrote, and do you believe ENKI was good? To a point, yes, he was. But down the line, when he started to abuse women for his pleasure, shall we say, that crossed the line. So no, he's not good. But the original text where it goes through right up until he gets to that point of starting. Now, you could say, is he good because he's genetically modifying creatures, which will probably, some of them obviously will come out deformed to start with as he's testing. Is that a bad thing? Playing God? And technically when I say God, they were the ones we call Elohim, our God. So technically they are playing God because they can, because he is God. But anyway, so yeah, I think he was good, but I think the power and the fact that no one was in charge of them ever, and also their blood, the way the bloodlines worked up on their own planet, is they were allowed to breed with their half sisters and all sorts of stuff, which allows them here to feel like that. I mean, ENKI, there's tablets that literally say ENKI bred with his Eve, which was his daughter out of Adam and Eve, bred with her, had Seth, and then she also had daughters, but of course they don't write the girls down. But he then bred with his granddaughter, and then her granddaughter, great granddaughter, and so on. So he bred with his own lineage, and he finds that nothing wrong with that whatsoever because of the way they are on their own home planet. To us, it's like, what? But to them, so do you cast that as good? I mean, I think that's bad, especially when some of them probably didn't want him to. But to him, he was probably doing the right thing because of the way they were brought up. I guess it's the same as some cultures now. They do things that other people will frown upon and say, "What the hell? That's wrong. You shouldn't do that to women. You shouldn't do that to kids. Whatever it is." But to them, if they're brought up that way, they see no wrong. So I think he was good to a point. I mean, he wasn't going around, killing everything there and then. Roy has wrote Antarctic Theory. City-sized craft under the ocean, under the ice. There is a section where the ice had broken off, as described in the tablets, which you'll find when I start doing. But you can go and look in the Oxford University; it says it as well. A chunk of ice the size of Texas broke off, caused the tsunami, caused the Great Flood. Roll on till Admiral Byrd flew over, saw this massive chunk of land now, and thought that the whole place was ice, but it wasn't, because that chunk had broken off 10,000 years ago. People went there, and then they came across this UFO of some description, or city that's still powered, and the Americans thought, oh crap, this is so big, we need to cordon off the area. How do we do that? We set up a treaty. Roll on to a couple of years ago when someone says, you know what, that treaty means it's a flat earth, and that's how we end up with the flat earth, which is not a flat earth. Gatix has wrote, what's up with the Black Knight satellite? I doubt if it's there now. So it's got a polar orbit that goes round from pole to pole as opposed to around the side, which is an unusual orbit. NASA agreed it was definitely something there, but they seem to tell you that it was some part of a craft. There are photographs of the Black Knight satellite, which is possibly a probe, on the internet. And if it was there, I mean, there's more stories to that, but if it was there, it wouldn't be there now. The military would have gone up and nudged it out of the way if they couldn't bring it down and experiment and test it. So chances are they've nabbed it and opened it up to see whoever built it. The man has wrote, aliens killed the dinosaurs and restarted the world. So I'm guessing you're saying aliens. My head's just trying to get around that. So aliens, I'm guessing you're saying that the asteroid that came was actually what destroyed because you've not said. So let's assume you're saying that that's what's happened. So they wipe out these dinosaurs over, let's just hypothetically say a couple of 100,000 years, and then do nothing to the planet thereafter, and just allow evolution to carry on again, but with less dinosaurs. Because we've got no evidence of aliens being here, so what benefit would there be for aliens to wipe out dinosaurs and then let evolution start again? I mean, we are only here because of the Anunnaki. We've got tablets that literally tell us that they genetically modified us in the British Museum, but hey, so no, I can't see aliens killing off the dinosaurs in order for just another lot of animals to come along anyway, not them. Just doesn't make sense. Thank you, Pandora. Thank you. You don't have to. Appreciate it. Lisa's wrote, yikes. Thank you again, Pandora. Yikes. Lisa's wrote, dream I had about alien abductions. They took me through the ceiling. Now I'm like, yeah. So let me just tell you the story that you may not have heard then. True story as well, because people that say show me proof won't believe it. But so there was a guy fit as a fiddle one night in America. I know it's America, it's always America, because I can't read Russian. So there's these stories that happen all around the world, but I can't read other languages. So he went to bed, and next morning he didn't turn up at work. So he's just kind of rural areas, not New York or anywhere like that. Didn't turn up at work. The following day, still didn't turn up at work. And then the third day, people came round, knocked on his door. No answer. Eventually, people broke in. Police were there. And they looked around the house, went up to his bedroom, and he was lying there on his back, face up, looking up. Blood on his face. And they were like, what the hell happened? He's awake. And what the hell happened? Why, what's going on? And he says, I'm paralysed. He says, I think I'm paralysed from the neck down. He says, I was fine and now I'm not. And they're like, what the hell happened? And they look up, because he was looking up all the time, and there's blood marks and sort of a dent-ish on the ceiling. So they take him to hospital, this, that and the other, and then they had to work out what went wrong. So they said to him, the only thing we can do is hypnotise you. So he got hypnotised, and under hypnosis, there was a beam of light come through his ceiling, but it didn't get the whole of him. It went up to his neck. So the beam lifted his body up, and his head was obviously trailing behind. And they tried to pull him through the ceiling, but his head wouldn't go through the ceiling because it's not within the beam, and it broke his neck or spine or something happened to him, and they obviously just dropped him back down and buggered off instead of fixing him, which would have been the honourable thing to do in my opinion. But maybe they didn't realise, or maybe they thought their machine had gone wrong or something and didn't realise what they'd done. So so this poor guy is now paralysed because of an alien beam that didn't quite grasp the whole person. True story. I say true story because it is, genuinely there's a person now out there because of that's literally quadriplegic, if I'm saying it right. Dean has wrote, the Sumerian tablets have the story of the creation of... Sorry. The Sumerian tablets have the story of creation with aliens. I'm confused on that. When you say aliens, are you referring to the Anunnaki or are you referring to another race of aliens? I'm confused on that one. Sorry. The Cunning Linguist has wrote, wow, 40 years and still nothing to show for it. Oh, we've got them tonight, haven't we? Is it jealousy? I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I'm just going to block this person. I wouldn't go on someone's as much as I want to. I've seen people talking about the same subjects and I really want to go on there, but I'm not that... I can't do it. GJ Holmes has wrote, don't remember that episode of X-Files. Probably something I said earlier that would have be funny at that point, but obviously it's now behind. I'm sorry. Dina's wrote, thank you, Pandera. You don't have to. Dina's wrote, I believe the Agigi were not Anunnaki or were a lower class. No, they were, from my research, everything makes sense because when they class them as the sons of, and they do class them as the sons of, because they're the ones that came down and stole the women, they're, in the Bible, as well as other translations, they're the sons of God that came down and stole women. But I say stole, the wording is took unto them the daughters of man, but let's be honest, they stole them. So when you've got the sons of God, the God is Elohim, that's the name. There's no getting around that. So we know I know the name for the alien race, which we call the Anunnaki. The whole race is called Elohim. So when they say the sons of Elohim, they're saying the younger Elohim. Now, when you see the carvings of, and I'm probably one of the only people that's picked this up, but when you see the carvings of the Agigi, I probably am the only person, I noticed that they didn't have beards. Whereas the other carvings of ENKI and blah, 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 all have beards. So you put two and two together, you end up with young Anunnaki. I say Anunnaki. The Anunnaki is the name for those here on Earth. Agigi were the names, which also translates into watching or watchers, which makes sense because they're the ones that came down and were classed as the watchers. So, yeah, that's my take on it. Don't look here as well. I've been spending 35 years researching it, and I can tell you the truth. Believers settle for lies. Interesting way of saying it, yes. Well done. JS wrote, did you hear about the Dogman sightings in Mississippi? MISSISSIPPI. It's one of the only things I ever remembered. I had wallpaper that had sort of like maps on it beside my bed, and Mississippi was right beside my bed. And that was probably the only thing I could spell when I left school. I don't recall a particular incident in Mississippi, so I can't tell you unless you know more than me and there was like footage or something. Otherwise, it's just another I saw a dog man, because I've heard a lot of them, but unfortunately, we don't have anything. Juventus has wrote, I saw a UFO in 2013. I would love to know where, what shape. And JBAE has wrote, so is the Earth flat? I don't believe it is. No, it's not. No, they can't answer why cameras on their own experiments go up and they spin round and they show Earth equal distance. Now, if you go by their flat Earth analogy, then Australia to the edge is 4,000 miles. Now, there's footage of independent people, not NASA, doing their own rocket balloons and stuff like that up in Australia. So when the camera spins around, you would see just 4,000 miles, which is nothing when you're that high up. You would see the edge. And you would see further distance, you would see 20,000 miles the other opposite way, which is just common sense. But the camera footage in Australia is equal to that of America, where it's always, again, equal in the middle. It's always in the middle, and you only get that on a ball. So forget everything else. Forget all the water levels and all the experiments they want to try and do inside Earth. In other words, on the Earth, they're trying to do these experiments. I had someone on one of my videos just today saying, put a tennis ball, have tennis ball with loads of water and put it on a drill and spin it and see what happens. I'm like, but you're doing that with inside the planet. If you want to do that, you need to scale it up. You can't just do a controlled test inside the test that you're already talking about. You need to scale it up and move outside of the actual. So you need to create a planet, and then you need it to be spinning the same speed as Earth, and then you'll need it to go around the sun, just as Earth is. You need to recreate the same environment, not do a freaking tennis ball on a planet that's already got the atmosphere and the gravity pushing down. You need to take it outside. Oh, people, give up with people. They don't. I don't know. I come out of school thick. Well, I say thick. I mean, while I was at school, I was typing code on computers and stuff. So I guess I wasn't that thick. But as a general rule, I wasn't educated at school, and defies belief how people can go along and try and say, do this experiment here, but they're in the experiment. They're already in the experiment. You can't, if anyone knows anything about experiments, you have to do a control, and then you have to do the outside experiment. But anyway, wow. Scrolling down, Juventus wrote, I saw a triangle UFO. Ah, triangle. It flew over my backyard. Okay, chances are then that was a military one. Was it black with 3 lights and then possibly one in the centre? 3 lights on each end. If it was, chances are it was a TR3 or TR3B, which you can actually look up. Even the last episode of X-Files actually showed the TR3B. I thought, excellent, well done, guys. That was on season 11, if I remember correctly. Right Hand Path has wrote, how is the Anunnaki film going? So we've got, thank you for asking, we've got an investor that's interested. They need it packaged, which basically means we have to give them the script, the shoot schedule, the breakdown, the budget, the cast, crew, everything all packaged. Excuse me. So that's something we're working on. However, funny enough, just last night I suddenly remembered we've got something already packaged. Now, I know it's not the Anunnaki film, but we've already got something packaged. So I did say to the producer, I said, why not ask them if they're interested in this other particular project that we've got? And they said, yeah, we're interested in that. However, they're busy up until November, but they'll take a look at it then. So that gives me a chance to sort out the other one as well. So worst case scenario, we'll get the other new one, or not new one, but it's an older one, but we'll get that shot first and then move on to the Anunnaki, because I really want to do the Anunnaki justice. I'm not saying I don't want to do the other film justice, but the other ones can be shot in England. It's basically a cross between Bridget Jones and Back to the Future. So it's about, it's a female-driven film where she gets, I don't want to spoil the story, but she gets the ability to go back in time for a short period of time each time. So yeah, it's it's a good script and everything, and it can be shot here in the UK, and I won't need to have to go because the investors wanted us to shoot in Morocco. So not a problem, but this one would be nice to shoot in England and get it over and done with. So I don't know which one will come first, basically. But either way, the Anunnaki one will be good because each day I'm learning more and more about the Anunnaki, which will help me. So, for example, which I didn't know before, just yesterday, again reading more and more because that's you got to remember there's hundreds and thousands of these tablets out there. So I haven't read all hundreds and thousands of translations because there's not hundreds of thousands of translations, but there are a hell of a lot of translations, and trying to find the ones that have the information that we need is really difficult. So what I didn't know before, which I found out yesterday, was ENKI built, when he went to the Abzu, he built we call it a palace, but he built a special place out of lapis lazuli and metal. I mean, isn't that amazing? I mean, I didn't know that. So he's got this, and it describes it as well. The translation describes the actual palace, which I didn't know until yesterday. So when I now come to make the movie, I can now add that in, because I always wondered where he slept. To be honest, because obviously Noah going down way down the line after the flood, or just before the flood, sorry. He was living in a place that had a reed wall as a bedroom wall. In other words, reeds from the river. Whereas Enki had this marvelous palace built out of lapis lazuli, which is their go-to material. So, sorry. AJ has wrote, "Hello friends, hi AJ, how are you doing? Hope you're well. Long time no see." Dean has wrote, "I think Bigfoot are the mistakes of the Anunnaki made while trying to create humans." No, they're on a totally different continent. America and Russia, whereas the Anunnaki were Mesopotamia, and South Africa and Greece at some point, and Rome. So you see, I mean, it's totally different continents. So no, I couldn't see that myself. Plus, also there is people that have actually seen Bigfoot with UFOs flying around. So, J. B has wrote, "Are you familiar with Dr. Stephen Greer?" Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I think he's. I know there's some people out there that try and debunk him, obviously, but I think anyone that puts their career on the line manages to get the Disclosure Project back going to 2001, I think it was, or 2002, to manage to do all of that. Whatever anyone says about him, and whatever else he says, where he's gone to the White House and explained aliens to him and stuff like that. Apparently, whatever he says, the guy has done a great job for ufology, for people like us to learn from. Even if he's wrong on some bits, to get those people on that Disclosure Project. If anyone's not even heard of the Disclosure Project, do have a look on YouTube. I think it's still on there. It's called Disclosure Project by Stephen Greer, and it's actually got eyewitnesses in front of a Congress. It was a sort of a mock version of a Congress trial with people explaining what they've seen and how NASA was masking out, in old technology style, masking out UFOs that was being seen in photographs, etc. Frankie's wrote, how to hunt on YouTube. Steve Isdal. How to hunt on YouTube. So I'm guessing that's the name of the title, How to Hunt, and then on YouTube by Steve Isdal. I'm guessing that's to do with Bigfoot. Bruce has wrote, if you can't grasp the surface is flat, you're going to have a hard time with the truth. Bruce, please be still here. Answer this, Bruce. Why, no matter what camera footage you guys, flat earthers, show, as well as globers, why is it always equal distance? Please don't say it's atmosphere. You know, when you can see, you know, when it's in the middle, you're looking at 12,000 miles one way, 12,000 miles the other, approximately. Whereas a flat earth, you'll have 4,000 one way and 20,000 the other. Just answer me that. No one has. I put the videos up. People watch them. They're crazy. But no one's come back and answered that. And you know why? Because you can only have that being in the centre on a ball. It's true. Just imagine a ball and sticking a dot on it. Wherever you are, that dot is always in the centre. I know you could turn the ball up, but if you look directly down at where the dot is, it's in the centre again. You can't get away from it. It's always in the centre. Please be still here to reply to that. Please, because you could be the first person that would be able to say, well, even I can't answer it. I'm not saying I'm a genius, but even I can't. I'd like to think I could answer it if I could as a flat earth. I'm actually writing a book, a second book now. The first one's already done. I'm waiting for that to come through the post any day now from the printers to do with flat earth. But now I'm doing one on the globe. And I'm trying to pretend that it's in this book, that it's a flat earth, and I'm trying to use, I've had to research Eric DeBay and all these people to just, and every time I read something, I can almost debunk it, and I'm thinking, oh, this is really hard to write this book from a flat earther's perspective, because I can come up with the answers to it, whereas the first book that I'd done, which was saying it's a globe, I can't answer, such as that one simple question about, you know, always been in the middle. Deanna's wrote, I believe we have a firmament above us, but also believe the Anunnaki. Can that be possible? So, well, the original text for firmament basically meant atmosphere. I mean, some people say it's sky, but if you read it properly, when they struggled to get through our atmosphere, it didn't mean there was a dome, it just meant they struggled to get through our atmosphere. Just as NASA would, or a meteorite would, will struggle to get through our atmosphere, in other words, burn up. So that's where the word firmament come from. Sumerian text, not the Bible. It come from Sumerian text, which predate the Bible. Unfortunately, somehow people have come along and decided that that word firmament, because of the translations, bearing in mind the original translations from Sumerian were to Aramaic, Babylonian, then Aramaic, then Hebrew, then English. So you can kind of see why it all went a bit pear-shaped, or dome-shaped, shall we say. But of course, you know, you've got people saying that the rockets are going up, hitting the dome, and they show footage of this rocket going up and then malfunctioning, and they say it's hit the dome, and that's 7 miles up. The ISS, if you believe that that's genuine, which people have physically seen it with telescopes flying past them, but hey, that's more than 7 miles up. And the Apollo missions went higher than 7 miles up. So how does one rocket hit a dome when they want it to hit the dome, but other ones doesn't hit the dome? I know you could say, well, because the dome's arched, therefore, you know, part of the dome's only 7 miles down. And then my argument will be, well, why keep firing rockets up if you know it's going to hit a dome and destroy them? Because companies here in the UK pay Elon Musk to put what they call a payload on his rockets to go up into space. Now, if he keeps coming back to them saying, do you know what, I'm going to pay you your money back plus double, but let's pretend whatever you sat there and spent 5 years building is now in space. Let's just pretend that, but here's your extra double money. But it doesn't make sense. Now, it would make sense to go to the edge and bash through the edge of the dome as opposed to straight up. Now, when I say to people, why send rockets up, they say because they're trying to break through. And I say, okay, so why let us know that they're doing these rocket tests? They could just do it without us knowing. You know, they don't have to broadcast. They don't even have to put cameras on their rockets. They could just do it and try and break through. Of course, no one can answer why they would publicly allow us to know that they're doing these test rockets to go and break through. But but it's still easier to go to the side of the dome than it is to go straight up. And so, no, there's no dome, basically. And of course, we've got meteorite impacts. There's one in Arizona, absolutely massive, which matches the ones on. When I say matches, it looks like the same sort of ones that we get on other planets plus the moon. So in order for us to have had that, something would have had to have created that. And you could say, well, it's volcanic, it's this, that, and the other, but the moon doesn't have the same volcanic activity that Earth would have had back in the past to be able to create those type of. In other words, the moon is lifeless. So how would it have created those what look like impact craters? Because they are impact craters. In other words, it's got through the dome. Now, if you say the dome's outside the moon, then how did that 7 mile high up rocket bash into the dome if the dome goes further than the moon? And then you're going to say, well, the moon's local, and so is the sun, and so is the stars. But then you go back to the original text that say, above the firmament, there's stars in heaven, which we know is translation error. It should be in space. So above the firmament, stars in heaven. So when people start saying, no, the dome is, the edge of the dome has actually got the stars stuck in it, and it just all falls apart. NCI has wrote, let's see what your 40 years got you. So here we go, someone's trying to knock me down. So Bigfoot hunting is just Native American hunting. I would probably counter that with, what about the monks in Nepal? What are you going to say? What? And I'll say, what about the Himalayas? What? What about Russia? What about the Dalaflos Pass? What? You're probably thinking, hang on a minute, this isn't Native Indians, because obviously Native Americans, because they're not even in America. So why is he talking about Bigfoot in other country? Because they are there. And then how do you then explain Native Americans in Nepal, in the Himalayas, in Russia? You didn't think that one through, did you? You have to be careful when you start with the words, let's see what your 40 years got you, when one of us, I'm not going to name names, but either me or you, has slightly made the other one look a little bit silly. I don't know which one of us. It could be you, could be me. I'll let the viewers decide. Unless you're going to then turn around and say the native, and I'll use that word, Native Americans actually lived in Russia, in which case they become Native Russians as opposed to Native Americans. So you get the idea. So let's see what 40 years have got you. I do enjoy doing this. Sorry. Giddy has wrote, so is Wolf Creek, Australia a landing site or a meteor crash site? I don't know that particular area. Forgive me. I try and learn as much as I can, but I don't know that particular area. I will probably look into that then. Wolf Creek, Australia. Hey Google, set a reminder for 7:30 a.m.
Okay, tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. What's the reminder?
Wolf Creek.
Okay.
I will look into that. Sorry to the person that's joining live. I'm not going to be on too long. Oh, good God, it's 10:30 already.
There is an email
wow,
message.
Where did that time fly? Wow. Hungry Bio Machines wrote pyramids? Question mark. I prefer a real question instead of just one word thing, because I don't know how much you know about it, and I don't know which ones you're referring to, or whether you're referring to every single one of them. Briefly, some are used. In fact, I heard just the other day, I was listening to a podcast, which I didn't realise was supposed to be a podcast. I thought it was actual intellectual people. I don't mean to sound rude, but I thought it was establishments talking about something. Anyway, and these podcast people were talking about Thoth and stuff, and one of the guys actually said everything that I said. He said, and this is the first person I've actually ever heard anyone say the same as me. He said, power grid system, which is fine for the pyramids. He didn't mention the particular one, the main one in Giza, the Great Pyramid, because I don't know whether we established that, but that was done as a beacon to start with. Probably a clever place to put it. Not only would it power, but by putting it exactly where it did, but when they finished using it, they could have probably used it to help power. But anyway, this guy also said that some of them he believes, and I couldn't believe someone else had said this unless he's listened to me. I'm not saying I'm just saying no one else has heard that. He said that he believes some of the pyramids were made so that you could have an out-of-body experience. And if you've watched my videos, you'll see that I've said that. I said the Khafre's pyramid was built by Ningazida / Thoth as a way for him to get to ascend to the halls of Amenti. I know I say ascend, technically it's descend, but people say coming out of your body, you go up. But either way, that's what I think. And so he said the same thing, which I thought was quite cool. Hopefully he got that conclusion to himself, which if he did, then brilliant. It goes to show then it helps validate me in a way. If people have done, and this guy, whoever it was, I like I say, I've never come across him before, but he seemed fairly knowledgeable, and he was reading all the ancient texts, etc. as well. So he's obviously come to the same conclusion as me, which is brilliant. The man has wrote, if dinosaurs were very big at a certain time, then maybe people may have been extremely large as well. If humans were around, or any kind of hominids were around when the dinosaurs were around, then yes, I could imagine them being big. We don't really have any evidence whatsoever of any hominids. We've got creatures and, Gigantopithecus and things like that. But we've got no sort of anything close to Neanderthal, Homo erectus, any, cavemen, anything similar to that. Now that we could be lied to, where they have found evidence that we could have been lied to and said, this is only from, 3,000 years ago or 300,000 years ago. Instead, it could have been from 60 million years ago, for all we know. We're kind of trusting the original people that started to find the original, and I say original because obviously, as in the last couple of 100 years, as we know now by watching TV and learning on TikTok, the governments and elites have got their own agenda for us, and so now things have changed. But back then, when they started finding these fossils, I'm hoping that a lot of those were telling the truth back then. NCI has wrote, if it's your ancestors, you would ask a native. So obviously this was the person that said, how do you spend your 40 years? Let's see how much you know. And then I proceeded to tell them what stuff that they probably didn't know. But yes, I think where you're, because looking at your name there, it sounds like, in your picture, it sounds like you are a native Indian or belong to them or relation to them. The native Indians did deal with Bigfoot. Some tribes traded with them. Some tribes, whoever the slowest one was, got picked up by the Bigfoots and was taken away. So yeah, the Bigfoots were definitely around. Many stories, as you well know, but Bigfoot isn't only in America, because, as I say, when you've got other cultures in another country telling you that they've seen them, and in fact, the Tibetan monks have got the skull cap and the hand of a Bigfoot in a glass box. It got stolen at one point, and then Weta Workshop kindly recreated it because they did kind of worship, because it was actually a friend of theirs, the Bigfoot, before it died. A conical shaped head and all. So they, then it's not just America. Deanna's wrote, I live in Arizona. We see many things, plus the Vatican has Lucifer here. Yes, I mean, how can how can the Vatican, of all places, they've got two of the most powerful telescopes on this planet, and they're not looking for God. They're not. They're not. Why would Vatican want telescopes? And the only reason why they would want telescopes is because they would probably want to look out at not necessarily spaceships, because you'd have to be kind of lucky to see, especially with a telescope where it's zoomed in so far. All you'd see is a blur, unless you actually it's that far away and it's that big that you can actually see it. So chances are they're looking at planets such as, I don't know, let's throw a name out there, Nibiru. Why would they want to be looking at Nibiru? Would that be because the people that set up the Vatican in Rome? Now, where were the Anunnaki offspring last? The demigods. Where are they last written about? Was it Greece? No, it was Rome. Now, what? Didn't they live for possibly up to 900 years? Yeah, the demigods did. In other words, the offspring of the Anunnaki and humans lived for 900 years. Yeah. Anyway, that's my version of it. User 92 has wrote, do you believe the lizard aliens made humans? No, we've literally got the tablets in the British Museum that talk about Anunnaki, and it's not just Sitchin that translates them. I will be doing videos pointing to where different people translated different things. So when people start trying to knock Sitchin, you'll all be going, well, actually, now we know for sure. But no, it's the Anunnaki made humans from Neanderthal and their own DNA. Literally, the again, not just Sitchin, but the Oxford University has the translations, or the tablets, I think, in the British Museum, but the translations you can go on their website and read it, and it literally talks about their essence and their MEs, which is what Sitchin was talking about, and how they had to, basically genetically modify and keep tweaking it until they got the first proper one that came out okay. So no, not lizard, definitely Anunnaki. It'd be crazy for Sumerians to write all about MEs and deformities and from a hominid, and it's definitely Anunnaki. Ramus has wrote, are African Americans the real natives of America, California? Good question. Go number one in the class for that. So, from everything that I would give you is So when African, forgive me for saying it, if you don't like the word Africa, it's not my fault. So when the African people were created by the Anunnaki 300,000 years ago, over a long period of time, some of them moved on and moved away. We've got records of some of those African people going to India 50 to 60,000 years ago. So we can assume that some of those African people did travel around, basically. Now, whether or not they sailed across at that point, I don't think so. Roll on coming up to the flood, 100,000 years ago, they started to breed with the humans, which then gave them what they called the civilized people, which they could teach, etc., which they did. So from 100,000 years ago, there were humans that bred with the African people, as well as the African people breeding with all the other hominids in that area, and the humans bred with the hominids and the Neanderthals in that area. Everyone was breeding with everyone. So for 100,000 years, I say 100,000 years, technically it's 90,000 years because it was 100,000 years ago. Not for 90,000 years up until the flood, people were breeding with everyone and moving around the best they could. So I think because of the, dare I say it, the civilized ones having been taught by the Anunnaki 100,000 years ago, come down to 20,000 years ago, before the flood, boats were being used to go here, there, and everywhere. So I think, as well as the Anunnaki taking people to different places, so I think some of those people, the olive skin, some of the African people were possibly taken to Mesoamerica and other places. And I think they bred with the indigenous hominids there, which gives us the different forehead shapes. Like the Mayans have the sloped back head, or certainly the descriptions of them show sloped back heads and big noses, whereas the Homo erectus had big noses. So you could probably say, well, okay, they were probably bred with them. So I think when you say Native Americans, I think it's a hodgepodge of different things. Now, see, when Ayana took olive-skinned people to India, there were already Africans in India. So are the ones that Ayana took more right because she was classed as a goddess, and the ones that she took were civilized enough, and I say civilized, I'm just using their word, that could build structures and temples, etc., compared to the African people. Again, forgive me for describing it, but they weren't taught, that managed to get to there for 50 to 60,000 years ago, that wasn't taught because they just, walked it or whatever, however they got round. And they could from Mesopotamia, they could have quite easily walked to India from there. All right, long journey, but they could have done it. They didn't need boats or anything. So I think native Africans are literally a hodgepodge of whoever was breeding with whoever at whatever time. I mean, there's an island just off of India where there's, I think it was 20% of the DNA is unknown, which means they bred with someone else around that area, possibly on that island, which we don't have record of whoever it was now. So in other words, there was hominids all over the place. And so in America, did they breed with Homo erectus? Did they breed with someone else? And which ones eventually survived through? Your guess is as good as mine. AJ has wrote, run them lights up if you are enjoying the live. Oh, AJ, bless you. Thank you. You don't have to. But it's nice of you. Des has wrote, I'm going to become one of the god beings in the afterlife. Do me a favour if you can. Push someone that likes windows down the stairs. Open the gate first, and then in the afterlife, just give them a little nudge. Loft Friars wrote, "You're invisible." Yeah, I'd rather, because I do watch other people's videos where they, especially females, and I'm not saying I watch especially females, but there's a couple of females that are good looking, that are talking about the same things that I talk about, and they're well off the subject. They're out of their league, in my opinion, and I'm not being rude, that's why I'm not giving their names, but they have so many more people watching them, and they have more followers than me. Now, I'm not being bitter or anything, I'm just saying they're probably getting the followers because they're showing their face, and so I would rather people listen to my voice and hear what I say than take me for just because they're looking at me and either like me or dislike me. Plus, also, I keep my face separate because I do other things as well. Dina's wrote, all those who lived 500 to 800 years of age in the Bible were aliens, offspring of the Anunnaki. So, again, if you're interested, the tablets are in the British Museum. A lot of them, not all of them. Some of them have been, they move them around. So the Louvre's got some important ones at the moment. But the translations of those, not only Sitchin done them, but the, easy way, straight away on a website, you can go straight to the Oxford University. Now, there's a few scholars that have actually translated the same tablets in the Oxford, so you've got more than one translation of the same tablet in the Oxford University, which is fantastic, because I've read different people's translations of the same thing, and from that and everything else that I've learned, I can make up my own mind on which is the closest or which is correct to what it should be. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just saying that's how I do it. So when you're talking about the ages, yes, so when an Anunnaki bred with a human, such as Noah, having the first children, such as Adam and Eve, they had longevity of life. Noah, I think, went to 300 years, if I'm not mistaken, but I think that might be because where Anunnaki bred with humans, Noah's mum, no, I can't remember her name. She was married to Lamesh. Noah's mum, I believe, was an offspring of the Anunnaki anyway, further down. So when ENKI cheated and, had relationships with that woman that was married to someone else and gave birth, he wasn't having relationships with a human, he was having relationships with an Anunnaki offspring that's down many generations, which gave birth to Noah, which is why he only had 300 years compared to the direct descendants such as Adam and Eve, which got 900. So if you're breeding with a human, you get longevity. If you get breeding with your own granddaughter, then you get shorter lifespan. That's the way I took it. Marcus wrote, they're mythical creatures. I'm guessing, wow, is it to do with mermaids? You say mythical, but the giant squid was a mythical creature until we found it. So just bear that in mind when you say mythical. Just because we can't find it doesn't mean it's real. And also, you say mythical, but we have got tablets that talk about ENKI creating them using DNA, or MEs as they called it. We've got tablet, and we've got cylinder seals that actually depict such creatures. We have got honestly, they're in the Morgan Library. We've got so we've got a pretty good record. Now you could say, well, they're still mythological because the ancient Sumerians who only just learnt to speak suddenly worked out that there's such a thing as DNA and that you could actually splice things and stuff like that. And there's also other planets out there, and there's an asteroid belt that they didn't have telescopes for, but let's just write all that down because it's a good mythological story. At some point you got to say, okay, maybe they do know more than let on, because they're telling us stuff that we found out way later after finding the tablet. So someone's got to be right, them or mythical. And if they're mythical, then it's a hell of a imagination that they got everything right, that we didn't find out about until 200 years after. It's crazy. James wrote, unicorns are most likely real in Agatha, which is the inner earth for those of you that don't know. That's possible. I mean, we've got rhinos, we've got other creatures with horns, we've even got little lizards that have horns. So, back in the days, look at a saber-toothed tiger, massive teeth. It's not illogical to think that another creature just had another horn. Deanna has wrote, we are eternal consciousness energy. Des has wrote God with a little shark. Sean has wrote, are ghosts just emotional imprinting on things like a photo, which is why they can repeat actions? No, not from everything that I've learned. So there is there is a causality that happens with. That's the word for the day, causality. There's a causality. And the funny thing is, I went to school and come out with no knowledge whatsoever. That happens with some spirits where they get trapped in a time loop. Now that is, that's, been documented for probably 1,000 years, where people have said that they've seen an apparition or a spirit repeating a process over and over, whether it's walking down a hallway, whatever, going through a wall, because back then the wall wasn't there when that person was around, so that's why it seems to want to walk through a wall instead of using a door, because if it was repeating something that it did before, it would probably open the door and walk through. So there is a thing that happens with the spirits, but not all the time, obviously. So going back to the first part, are they emotional imprinting on things? No. So an orb, if you've seen videos of orbs, they are, if you believe the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and I genuinely do, because everything they've written about, including Atlantis, if you watch my recent videos on where I believe Atlantis is, I base that on some of that information off the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which all makes a lot more sense than people just guessing. And they do guess. I know I keep going on about this, but they do guess because they pick stuff out of Plato's writings about where Atlantis is and ignore all the other bits that doesn't match where they want it to match. And I could go along and point out all the bits where it doesn't match to theirs, whereas mine, you can't do that because I don't use Plato in that way. So anyway, so they're a light energy being, and they join with us 3 to 4 months in the womb, as the Quran says, as mediums say, as spiritualists say, as regression people say. 3 to 4 months in the womb, it doesn't join with the womb, but that's when it joins in your pineal gland, which is formed, believe it or not, 3 to 4 months in the womb, just happens, and it stays with you until you die. And then everything, it's like a hard drive. If you know what a hard drive is, everything you learn, store, is saved on a file on that hard drive. And then when you die, you're actually still in control of that hard drive now, which is cool. You can fly it around, push pennies, push people down the stairs, people that like windows and gates. And then I know I have a thing about people that want to put chalk in the atmosphere and kill us prematurely and set up depopulation. Yeah, I have a real bad thing about that. But anyway, and then so you're in charge of that orb for a period of time until you have to cross over again, which is another plane of existence. And once you do that, the orb takes control again, and you are now just another file in many files down the line with all the other different people it's been with. So it's not an emotional print, but then you do, once it takes control, that's it. You are gone. Marcus wrote, the reason for the Great Flood happened was because of half-breed creatures, mermaids, minotaurs, etc. Not according to the tablets, which we do have in the British Museum, translated by many people. It was Nibiru coming back round. Yes, Enlil wasn't happy with humans at that point and wasn't happy with the giants, the Nephilim. So he allowed the flood to happen. He knew that the ice shelf was going to break off. They were monitoring it and they knew what was going to happen. That's why they had time to prepare and tell Noah how to build the... now, there's 2 names for Noah. Sitchin calls him Sasudra, and Ivan Finkel from the British Museum called him Atrahasis, which is really weird because there is an actual tablet called Astrahasis. So I don't know which one's more right, Sasudra or Atrahasis. I don't know which one's more right. I need to find that out one day. But yeah, literally we've got the tablets that tell us all of that. So they didn't, ENKI was the only one that wanted the opposed. I mean, a couple did oppose, but in the end they agreed with Enlil to allow the humans and everyone to perish. But because Noah was a direct offspring, because Noah was a direct offspring off of Enki, he wanted to save them. Plus, he also said in a different tablet that humans are his best creation. In other words, out of all the hybrids and everything else that he's created, humans are his best creation. AMJ's right, there's no such thing as aliens. Okay, it's too late for me to go into that. The only thing I would say is obviously this person's not looked into it, because if you look into something and you can't help it, you will come to the same conclusion that people that have looked into it has come to, which is there's aliens. I could just point you to the Tic Tac incident with the military pilot that went on record and said it's not of this earth. Pretty much, they couldn't keep up with it and everything else. So, yeah. The man has wrote consciousness is eternal. People are not. That's what I would say. AMG, the same person that said aliens are not real, was wrote seriously. James has wrote, what do you think of the Middle Earth? In terms of, I'm guessing you're not talking about Tolkien. And I'm guessing you're not talking about Middle Ages. I don't really know how much on the Middle Earth other than those things. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah, it's not really come across on my research that it's something, so to speak. Deanna's wrote the Anunnaki crossbred animals. They did indeed. Daigo Fam has wrote, I fought Bigfoot. In a physical fight, they're at least 10 times stronger than us. Even the strongest person couldn't, even Tyson would have got knocked out by Bigfoot. I don't mean to sound funny, but literally they can carry a deer under their arm, a full-size deer under one arm. You're not going to do that. You're not going to fight a Bigfoot and be around to tell the tale. Eric's wrote, some of these are real in higher dimension realms and our frequencies aren't high enough to align. Eric has wrote, to see them all the time. Oh, sorry, carrying on. Align to see them all the time. Jesus, sorry if I'm whizzing through this. I doubt if I'm going to get to all of them. I should have put my boy to bed at 10. It's 11 on now. Dana's wrote, Jesus was a hybrid. Yes, I agree he was. Yeah. Marcus wrote, confirmed. At Dzazling says yes. I'm not sure what that was referring to. Sorry. Pandoria's joined and wrote, hi everyone. Wow, am I that far behind? Because I saw your things popping up earlier. Thank you very much. Well, I'm so far behind. I'll have to do another one soon. Conkeed, forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. I probably totally did. Said hello. Hello back. Scrolling down, trying to read questions here. Ramus has wrote, human is a social construct. Well, the original tablet that talks about Adamu in Africa, South Africa, translates to the word human. So and that was written by the Anunnaki, which is not a human. So I probably wouldn't agree with you on that one. Deanna's wrote, we were created with the God's essence. That's correct. You're spot on, which would be, if you read the tablets, you sort of read into the essence as their, dare I say, it could be DNA, it could be a man's essence, if you get where I'm going with that. But of course, God, meaning Elohim, would be the same as the tablets, match as the tablets. On Tour for Life has wrote word salad. I have no idea what that means. Mr. Buster Manti. Human is just WT we call us, what we call us. Again, the translations are there. If you go and look, I can't, I won't lie and say you're right. I can't do that. I can only go by where the original word comes from, and that comes from Sumerian cuneiform, which talks about the Adamu with a U, it's basically Adam with a U, which translates into human. So I can't. Sorry, I can't go that it's a human, that we've decided to call ourselves that. Condi has wrote, why is the picture black? I don't generally show my face. Hopefully you like listening to me. There's no benefit in showing my face to people, unless I was a very pretty woman that, blokes want to sit and look at and not pay attention to actually what they say, because what they say might be wrong. I sound like a bitter man, don't I? I don't know, I just don't like it when people put out this information and then someone will come to me later and after watching one of these people and say, you're wrong because... like one of these people was quoting... what was they quoting? They were quoting Billy Carson, who's a researcher. And I wrote on her page... sorry, you might want to check this because it's actually incorrect. I think Billy's got it wrong. And then she wrote, oh, well, I only went by what Billy said. So basically, she's just copying what Billy does. And I think Billy does the same to other people. But the point is, it's really sad because people will watch her video, believe her, because she's quoting someone else like Billy Carson. And they'll all be like coming to me saying, well, you're wrong, because Billy and this woman says this, that, and the other. And I don't know, sorry. When I guess probably because I'm annoyed, saddened, because I spend 40 years researching, and I know people probably think it's a load of rubbish, but to me, when I come out with who was on Atlantis, where Atlantis was, and many other firsts that, touch wood, no one's debunked, I kind of pride myself on it. And then so to hear people talking about things that are way off, and I'm like, that's annoying. I don't know. Sorry. Giddies wrote, is Wolf Creek an alien? Yeah, I'll look into that. I've got a reminder set now. Deanna's wrote, the angels were technically advanced beings. Angels were Anunnaki. Just another name for them as messengers, which is the actual Hebrew translation. So when you look up an archangel, they're the ones that flew the craft. And fallen angels were the Agigi that came down from Mars. So it all makes sense because they weren't angelic beings. They were physical flesh and blood. The man's wrote, I'm guessing if we are talking in our head and we hear ourselves, then who's talking and who's listening? Oh, that's too much for me tonight. You're going to make my brain fry. Christy's wrote, how long has he been on? No one's given me a time check at the moment. It's 11 o'clock now. Normally people give me a time check so I know how far I am behind. I'm probably an hour behind, so forgive me. Deanna's wrote, in the book of Enoch freaks out when taken up in the space in the ship with the angels. Correct. Yeah, but he also in the book of Enoch, he's walking around and chatting with angels, here on Earth. One angel leads him somewhere else. Another angel comes at a later date and has a chat with him, takes him somewhere else. So clearly they're not, flying creatures. I'm probably going to have to shoot fairly soon because it's now 11. I've got to put my boy to bed and let dogs out and stuff. Mutant Mayhem has wrote, have they found your mother yet then? Curious, have fun. Now that person's got no picture. And I would guess they're probably 16, living in their mother's house, which in this day and age actually is a common thing because obviously prices are dear, so I'm not going to attack you on that one. But yeah, Gilly Bean has wrote, do the ancient aliens you refer to happen to be the Anunnaki? Yes, they do. Yes, they are. Yeah, it's the only race that we've actually got evidence of. So when people talk about Lemurians and all sorts of other alien races, unless you can show me proof, because I kind of go by proof. If I can't go by proof, I go by whistleblowers. If not, I end up saying there is a possibility, or I believe. Now, there's people out there that say Lemurians are real, blah, 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 instead of saying I believe the Lemurians are real. So I ask for proof from them, and guess what I get? Nothing. So I can't help it. I need proof as best as I can. And if people just make up stuff, then it's sad. It's only me who's wrote The Wars of Gods and Men. Yes. Yeah, even in ancient India, they did. Funkaboo has wrote the gods are planet intelligences appear as deities. Are planet intelligences? The Anunnaki looked at planets as deities, but technically God is the translation of the word Elohim, which is their race name. Gilly Bean has wrote, finally somebody telling the truth. Oh, thank you. I can't, there's no point in making it up, and there's no point in copying other people because I don't know whether they've made it up. That's why I have to put the hard work in and research. And hopefully, you guys, even if you don't believe me, you might want to go and look it up yourself. I try and point to where certain things are. So, Ferret Business is right. I saw 2 UFOs just look like Venus moving around. So I'm guessing they were round shaped, I guess, or so far up that it just looked like a round light moving around. 6 Pesky's, right? I've seen it at night in the sky. It was bright light which was changing direction then. I can't read the rest of it. No bit there. Pandaria, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that totally wrong. At host, any info about Moldavite? Thank you in advance. Moldavite. If I've come across it, it hasn't registered in my brain when I read that out. I'm sorry. Am I following you? If I'm not, I'm going to follow you. If you can send me a message about that, I will look into it if it's something sort of like in relation to the sort of things I talk about. So if you can send me a message, that'd be cool. Deanna's wrote, if you were just created by some beings, you would think they were gods too. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, technically the name Elohim translates into, or we translate the word gods into Elohim. So either way, it's Elohim as their race name. But we did worship them, not religiously, but as you say, because they created us, we had to worship them. They thought they were power hungry and wanted us to worship them, which they did. Sorry, yawning. Oh, Tiz has wrote, yo, from South Wales, by all. So today, tell me something new about the NPW of the aliens, if that makes sense to you. NPW. It's probably too late for me to try and work at NPW. I don't know what NPW means. Sorry, not off the top of my head. Octis has wrote, autism sucks. Socks. Soz. Deanna's wrote, I died once and got stuck to the ceiling. So you had an out-of-body experience, I'm guessing, because obviously you're still here. And you felt like you were stuck to the ceiling. I'm not going to be able to get to the answer to this question, but I'd love to know. If you remember at all, going back to the body, did you feel like it snapped into the body instead of just casually going into the body? Because everyone that has near-death experiences literally say that they get snapped back into the body. And then Pesky's wrote, it flew away, disappeared very fast, like nothing I've seen before. Definitely sounds like a UFO. Mo37 has wrote, as if. In other words, whatever I was talking about here, right, you numpty, is what you're calling me there, Mo. Thank you for that. Pesky's wrote, I tried to record it, but for some reason it wasn't showing up on my camera. See, that's the thing, isn't it? People nowadays say, why haven't you got pictures of, if you've seen it, why haven't you got a camera? And it's not that easy, as you've found out. And then you wrote like it wasn't there. Well, actually, if you look into, depending on what particular craft it is, you need certain night vision goggles to be able to see the craft. So you're lucky to even see it with your own eyes. Type 4 military grade are the ones you need, but of course they're military grade, so it's really difficult to get hold of them. Now, there is people out there supposedly that have created their own that can see some UFOs now. Back in the day, you used to be able to get type 2 used to be able to see them, but now they're saying type 3 or 4 is what you need. Gatix has wrote, what's on the dark side of the moon? More entrances, large glass balls. You're going to say, what? Large glass balls. Or on the dark side. On the front side, though, there's small glass balls. And for those of you that are interested, I do have a Patreon page that has a video explaining all about those balls on the moon, as well as many other videos. Sorry, couldn't help do the little advert there. So no, it's just there's structures on the moon, on the far side of the moon, and entrances to get inside and mine on the moon. So there's nothing too major on there. Some ancient structures and some more modern structures. Supposedly, now whether this is true or not, I know there's a movie been made after it, but supposedly there was, when the Nazis went up there, because they went up there before us, or before the Americans did, because they had back engineered technology, or given technology. Sorry, just about yawn. Yeah, supposedly, now I don't know how true this is, but when they built their first structure up there, they built it as a swastika shape. I don't know whether that's true or not, but Panderas wrote, in fact, it's a very interesting page of the Virginia University. Oh, have you gone there? Brilliant, well done. See, I like it when people, look up stuff. Yeah, Virginia. So it's got they deal with past life regressions, past lives, near-death experiences, and reincarnations. Fascinating, yeah. BS has wrote, is it possible that the Anunnaki came from the planet Heaven and from the city Nibiru? Do you know what? Well done. I'll tell you what, you get a gold star for that. And I'll tell you why. I don't know whether you've done your homework or not, but again, translations in the Oxford University tablets in the British Museum, the Anunnaki talk about a place here on Earth as a shrine called Nibiru. So keep that in mind. So when this person, BS, has just wrote, is it possible that the Anunnaki came from the planet Heaven and from a city called Nibiru? That's possibly where you might be getting the idea from if you've done any research. Now, they had a shrine, in other words, a place called Nibiru here on Earth. which they went to occasionally. Now, whether or not that had any like radio equipment to talk back to Nibiru, whether it's, what significance did they have, I don't know. And the reason why you probably wrote heaven is because obviously all the translations, when they go up, they go to heaven. Now, the reason why I gave you a gold star, and you well deserved, is because one of the translations, not by Sitchin, someone else, when Adapa was going to Nibiru, according to Sitchin, in one of the other translations, it said Adapa, which was Adam, out of Adam and Eve. Adam was going up to heaven's portal. Now, Sitchin's obviously taken that and translated it in himself into Nibiru, but this other person had translated heaven's portal, which is interesting, because I thought to myself for a split second when I first read that, I thought, why would it be heaven's portal? Because that heavens is a translation that's been done many a time. As I say, Book of Enoch, everyone's got heavens. So why would this translator get heaven wrong when, they talk about heaven all the time, about the, stars in heaven and going up to see the highest in a Book of Ezekiel and stuff like that, talk about going into heaven. So everyone's talking about heaven. So you could be right. I don't know, but you could be right. How about that? That's and on that bombshell, well done. And if you're not following me, I should be following you, because you come up with you should listen to me more and give me some more of these. You obviously have done your homework. I'm really impressed with that. Well done. Smoke Boy has wrote, I'm from Barry. I'm wondering if that's the Barry in Scotland where the boy that had the past life memories, and he said he used to live in Barry. I wonder if that's the same one. Either way, hi there. Nick has wrote, there's a difference between being skeptical and being dismissive. I'm hoping that's talking about the people that have come on and been rude, maybe, as opposed to being skeptical. Unless it's me you're talking about, forgive me if I have. I try not to be rude if I can help it. Scrolling down, Funk of Boo has wrote, this is BS, nothing happened at Roswell. Again, how much research have you done? Have you actually looked into the deathbed confession of the doctor? No, probably you don't. If I mention the word Jesse Marcel, do you even know who that is? Probably not. Do you know about the Roswell Stone? What? No, you probably don't. So what I'm saying, I don't mean to sound rude, but I get people saying things all the time, and not just here, but out in the real world. And I talk to them, and they say there's no such thing. And then I say, "Would you, have you done any research?" And they go, "Well, yeah, I've watched TV, I've watched Ancient Aliens." And I say, "Okay, so do you know about?" And I point out things, and they go, "Don't know, never heard of that. That sounds made up." And but their answer is basically when they get caught out because they haven't done the research. If you can do the research and then debate with me, that's fine. But if you haven't done the research, so when you say nothing happened at Roswell, the newspaper article that first came out that said it was a crashed craft, UFO craft, you saying that you believe it was a weather balloon. You're telling me that the military got a weather balloon mixed up with an alien craft, a weather balloon. Are you telling me that? Are you really saying that? I'm curious because my head can't get around that people would believe the story that the military then put out saying, no, it's a weather balloon. You know what a weather balloon consists of, don't you? A balloon and some bars of some type of metal. And they may have images on those metal bars. They may not. but it wouldn't be strewed across over a mile, at least a mile distance, and the military wouldn't need to have gone in there and combed it on hands and knees. Hands and knees. Eyewitness reports. Now, if you say all those eyewitnesses are making it all up, it's a hell of a big story to make up, to say the military were on their hands and knees picking up every single bit of debris from a weather balloon. Really, Funkaboo? When you say this is BS, wouldn't that be BS? No? I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid. Maybe it wasn't a weather balloon, and all the people, including the doctor that had to get a casket for a 4-foot-high being, because obviously the military had found a dead alien or a few dead aliens. They wanted to put them in they originally asked for a hermetically sealed casket of some description, but the local town doctor didn't have one. But I guess you know all of this because you've done your homework and you really can debate with me and stuff. Smokey's wrote heat shield. Thank you. That was, God, am I that far behind? Yes, that's what I was talking about. And then the other Ferrex wrote heat sink. That's what I was also trying to get. Yeah, thank you. Right, I'm going to have to shoot in a sec, because it's well past what I need. I've got stuff to do. So I'll just answer a couple more chats, and hopefully people will want to listen to me again, or go to my website, outrohistory.co.uk, which has got all the videos and podcasts and live chats and whatnot there. Or I'm also on YouTube if you're interested. And I do have a Patreon page. I know, don't hate me. My daughter maybe made it. But it's got some good stuff that I've not spoken about at all here on TikTok or on my website or anywhere. It's all on Patreon. Johnny's wrote, aliens walk among us right now. I would say hybrids walk among us. Space Lord has wrote, Nada just uses ceramic tiles on... sorry, that's NASA. NASA... it's got a D there, but okay. NASA just uses ceramic tiles on its heat shields. Basic technology like cereal bowl. Yeah, but when you look at the thing that I was explaining earlier, if you're still here, it's got metals not of this earth. So it's yeah. Tex has wrote, the military admitted they are real, tracked them on radar, visually recorded them. Yeah, UFOs, yeah. I know, but the people that come on and say there's no such thing as aliens don't really want to see that. Johnny Jackie has wrote, don't make fun of me. I think that's the first time I've seen your name, so I don't know who you're... Oh no, there's another name. Johnny, I'm sorry, earlier it said aliens walks among us right now, and then you wrote, don't make fun of me. I didn't, unless someone else did. No one else did that I can see. I did reply by saying I think it's hybrids, because the chances of aliens walking among us, they would have to look identical to us. In other words, grew up on another planet looking like a human, which we've got more chance of hybrids that were taking humans and creating them and putting them back on Earth than we have of an alien race somewhere else looking exactly like us, same height, etc. Yeah, so I would say the hybrids. Smokies wrote, where are the alien bases on Earth? Good question. Go number 3 in the class. All over the place. In mountains. I know it sounds stupid. In mountains. Under the ocean. Yeah, all over, really. I think there's a base in Wales, a place called Berwyn Mountain. So, Johnny Jackie's wrote, explain Area 51. Okay, I'll be brief, only because if you're interested, I'll go through it, or I have done it on my videos as well. But so forgive me, all these people that's probably got other questions, but I didn't realise it was going to be an hour and 20 longer than I thought I would be. So Area 51 is a place that was set up when Eisenhower was in charge. they needed a place to take the dead bodies from the Roswell after taking them to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. It wasn't called that, I don't think, back then. And they set it up and started to do their own research, etc. The president found out, set up a group called MJ-12 to go and, which is Majestic 12, to go and, because he was being left out, the president was, he wanted to know what was going on, so he set them up to go over to Area 51 and find out what they actually know. And then over time, sorry if I'm being brief, over time Area 51 dug down, had at least 7 levels down. Each level had was dealing with something totally different from the other one. That's not where the UFOs that Bob Lazar talks about. That's S4 in Groom Lake. So the 7 levels have various different things. One is, for example, ESP. One is cloning. One is I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, all those type of good stuff were done or are done in Area 51. Now, from what I understand, when they released the information that Area 51 is a real place, before that they moved a lot of their equipment to another place, still fairly similar area, but not actually Area 51 anymore. And that's probably, my guess would be, because as soon as they admitted that there is an Area 51, of course Russia was already spying on them, but other countries would now be thinking, okay, let's put some cameras over in that area then from space, or sticky pads from the top of the dome looking down, if you will. So Area 51 is a very secure place. They have blacked out cars that take people to the local airport before you get on a blacked out windowed plane, and they fly it to Area 51. They play a particular song on the radio so that the ground control know it's them. They land. Everywhere's got coloured lines. You walk on those lines. If you don't, you're in trouble. And everything's completely compartmentalised. Hopefully that's answered some of your questions. Sorry if I'm not only being brief. And Mark had wrote thoughts on Bob Lazar, 100% real. Sorry if I'm really being brief, but when he filmed the UFO test flight with John Lear and their wives back in the 80s, before computer graphics, how the hell did he know to go out there and film when they was doing a test flight? So yeah, I think he's spot on. Deanna wrote, Phil Schneider saw aliens in the underground in Dulce, New Mexico. That's correct, yeah. And he lost his 3 fingers. I think it was 3. Some great questions tonight, though. Mary Great Falls wrote, a ship hit the planet 12,000 years ago, a piece of it under the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, this isn't personal. It's not personal. Please don't hate me. I'm going to friend you if that's okay. If you could give me, normally I asked on live, but I'm going to be shooting now. If you could give me what evidence you've got of that, because I kind of only go by evidence as best I can, and I've never heard of a ship hitting the planet 12,000 years ago. Now, you got to remember, 12,000 years ago, the Anunnaki were around. There was only a handful of people talking language back then, in the big scheme of things. It wasn't like everyone is now, so I'm just going through it in my head, how the logic would be on that. So Bermuda Triangle's off Florida, if I'm not mistaken, and the Anunnaki were in Mesopotamia, which is Iraq, Iran. So we've got a bit of a difference there. Now, in order for someone to have seen this craft crashing in to the ocean to know that it was a crash, when you say a ship hit the planet, So in order for someone to have seen that, someone would have to have been in Florida or certainly in the ocean, to be fair, depending on how big the craft was. If it was massive, then I guess you could probably see it from Florida. But if not, you would probably have to have been on the ocean, which means now 12,000 years ago, they were on a ship in the ocean. And when they see it crash, they would have had to have gone back, told people, wrote it down somehow. Bearing in mind 12,000 years, they wouldn't have had that great a language. So the other option, because that doesn't sit right with me, sorry. The other option is scavenger ships or military have gone underneath where the Bermuda Triangle is, found a ship. Now, they probably wouldn't have been out of date to 12,000 years because, let's be honest, you're not really going to be out of date a ship that's came in. It's not like radiocarbon dating here on the surface, because we can do that because of atmosphere and all sorts of other things, but in the ocean with sediment and everything, you're not going to be able to date it. So I would probably, forgive me for saying this, Mary, I would probably rule out the 12,000 years part of that. So then it's a piece of it is under the Bermuda Triangle. In other words, on the bottom of the ocean. It would have to be in the bottom of the ocean, not under the ocean. In other words, not under the sand, silt, etc. Unless a military team went there with a LiDAR, which would have been a fairly recent thing, to be able to scan it, lasers, and then find the actual shape of the craft. Now, you didn't say that they brought it back up, so I'm guessing it's still down there. Sorry, yeah, I know. My daughter's telling me the time, because sometimes I do lose track of time. So I would probably say no to the ship crashing there, or yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. There's a couple of holes in that story. Forgive me, I don't know where you got it from, whether it's some other TikToker or whatever. But I it just doesn't sit right with me. Okay, I'm gonna have to shoot. Forgive me. I know there's so many more messages that I have never got to, but forgive me. I will do another live soon, as I always do. I'm gonna have to shoot. I've got to let dogs out and stuff. But thank you very much. I can see the other questions. I was dying to get to them, but there's just too many. Forgive me. So yeah, watch my videos or catch me on another live. Thank you, Pandora. You don't have to, but it's very nice of you. And well done, everyone. Some great questions tonight. I wish I could have carried on doing it, but I've got stuff to do. So take care, everyone. All right, thank you. Bye. Bye.